This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Every time, TC. Every time.
It's a good song.
I can still see you guys when we're on screen, and somebody has to dance through that intro, and let me down. All right, well, welcome. This is the Star Wars special. Thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. These are all Star Wars fans, I'm assuming, right?
It's just Star Trek.
Yeah,
wait a minute, I'm in the wrong place.
Trek Wars? What?
I thought this was the Babylon 5 panel.
Oh, that's next week. That's next week.
That's next week. Okay.
I've actually never seen Babylon 5.
Have you seen Star Trek
Guys,
Deep
I
Space
thought this
Nine?
was the Smurf panel. What are you talking about?
Now that's a glass right there.
This isn't Battlestar Galactica.
Galactica 1980. What?
Galactica 1980. Oh,
Okay, now I got the right glass.
There you go.
All right. Vixie already took off. She's like,
she was really intimidated before the show. Mark flexed his wrestling.
I was actually looking for my R2D2.
There you go.
yeah.
Nice.
All right, so I usually when we do these, I do like a introduction thing, but it really feels like a sharing circle and like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So,
Hello, I'm TC. I'm a Star Wars fan.
yeah. So why don't we just
lifelong Star Wars fan?
Yeah.
Literally too, probably because I don't know. TC's you were born in what 87?
81.
81.
Okay.
So why don't we go around and we'll just what was your first Star Wars experience? When did you get bit by the Star Wars bug? I'll go first. For me, May 1977. I was 5 years old, and I remember seeing Star Wars. It was amazing. I loved it. I clipped all the newspaper clippings of the ads out. You remember newspapers? Remember the ads that they used to have of movies? Yeah. I had to clip all those out. I was hooked. We'll throw it. Let's go clockwise. Brian, what was your first memory of Star Wars?
Sure. Mine was I had an older sister, and some of her friends were like giving me their toys. She was like 5, 6 years, 7 years older than me. So she had they had all these Star Wars toys, and they gave me a bunch of them, and I was like, these are the coolest toys I've ever had in my life. And I actually started watching the movies after I had the toys. So
nice.
This is in the probably like early 90s.
Okay.
Or late 80s.
Okay. Larry, what about you?
Yeah, mine's really similar. I was born in 85, so I didn't get to see any of these films until the special editions came out theatrically. But my uncle had all of the toys. He had just a big case full of these action figures. Some of them like duplicates or even triplicates of them, and all the
we had to.
Yeah, all the play sets like the Falcon and different ships and stuff. And he just bequeathed all of it to me by the time I was 4 or 5 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need,
and you'll
That's a huge come up. Yeah.
I needed at least 3 Lobos because one for play, one to keep, one for show. Yeah, I know how the paint came off his earmuffs. So
You at least wanted multiple
his
stormtroopers.
back head visor.
Yep. Where was Lobo in the sequel trilogy? I missed him.
Lobot, they probably
He'll show up in The Mandalorian, don't worry.
Oh my God, that would be
Background.
amazing. If he answers
Positive,
Grogu's
please.
call, my life would be good. Mark, what about you?
First movie I ever saw in the theater, 2.5 years old.
Wow.
I don't have much remembrance of it because I was 2.5, but my parents said they had just potty trained me, and they were worried because I would not take my eyes off the screen. They forced me. They had to actually physically take me out of the chair to the bathroom because I would not leave. So I don't remember that, but I do remember seeing Empire on the big screen with my late uncle, and remember watching it with him and just being floored. And waiting on a bus stop, we were talking all about it. And yeah, I had the toys. My parents got me for Christmas this box set because back in the day, they didn't have every single toy in the store. You had to mail in some. It was a box set of villains. And it was all the monster, and I have them in a box over here. All the monster, the alien figures from Jabba's palace. So it was like a box set of like 8. So it came with like Gamorrean guard, the guard on the skiff.
Mark, are you able to put that in the? Are you able to bring that onto the screen at all?
Oh, well, I don't have the boxes. I just have the figures.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't have the box anymore, but no, I got Gamorrean guard and.
Yes.
I wanted to see the box.
Oh no, I don't have the box anymore. I wish, and then him, and then
this guy, dude, nice.
And so
that's one of the last 7 or last 16, last 17 they call it. It's like the extra rare there. Nice.
Yeah. Hopefully we have that Junkman join. That Junkman has a YouTube channel that talks all about Star Wars collecting and Star Wars toys.
Yeah, and then I got the original 77 Stormtrooper with the no moving head. It was a hard trade because my uncle had a buddy who had this, and I had an Imperial Gunner, and I traded the Imperial Gunner for this, and it was a tough choice. The gunner with the black helmet with the the one that pulled that pulled the lever and the
Death Squad commander.
Yep. I had him, and I traded him for this one, and I still was very happy, though I do miss that figure. That was my favorite. So, but I got all kinds of figures left.
That's a good trade.
Yeah,
I think they just showed up in the most recent episode of The Mandalorian too.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
TC, what about you?
Sorry.
I can remember I was about 4 years old. The house that I was born into, not the one I grew up in, but I can remember very vividly the first moment I can remember of Star Wars. It terrified me, and it was Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen's corpses on fire.
I remember that.
Yeah. I have a vivid recollection of that, but didn't scar me enough that I didn't immediately want to be Luke Skywalker. We had this toy set called Pipeworks. I don't know if anyone remembers it.
I know.
And I made a lightsaber using a wheel axle and like and so I was always like laser sword fighting with my brother. He always had to be Darth Vader, and I always got to be Luke Skywalker. And then we had a VHS taped off of USA of the whole trilogy, where my mom had like sat there and taped it and like paused for the commercial breaks, right? I watched that point till the whole top was just fuzzed out, and you could just see like the lower third of the movie, and I still would watch the movie. And then getting to see the special editions with my brother when those were released was just like, woo! Why did Greedo just shoot first? Well, that was weird. Okay. Maybe I didn't see what I saw. That's fine. Woo!
We'll talk more about the special editions. Ironically for me, the Return of a Man Called Horse is my first ever movie experience that I remember. And the only reason I remember that, it was 1976. I was 4 years old. My dad took me. Thinking back, why did my dad take me to go and see The Return of a Man Called Horse? Like, the only thing I remember is when Richard Harris is going through the ritual, like they're putting hooks in him and they're hanging him up. Like that's like messed up. Anyway, Nixie, what about you? What was your first Star Wars memory?
Well, when the
video
first came out on the television, I was about, I think, 7 or 8, and I absolutely loved it, especially R2-D2. He's always been like my favorite. And I mean, I'm kind of like, I wasn't really with the Rebel Alliance as much as with the dark side.
Oh, okay.
I love Darth Vader. I thought he was so cool.
There's no badder badass in the whole galaxy than Darth Vader, man. You don't get a better villain than Darth Vader. Just instantly recognize, iconic the moment he stepped on screen.
Yeah. just frustrating people.
Did you guys see the behind the scenes or the making of when it's David Prowse giving the lines?
Yeah, I remember
not the same, not quite the same.
No.
That was from the special features when they released. I don't know if you remember the silver and gold box sets. I mean, gold if you want this.
I do for the VHS stuff.
The DVDs, the first time they released trilogy on DVD, they had that in the special editions, and it was. I still own that box set, and the David Prowse section in there where it's like, you are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
I've got a little Darth Vader. It's a little USB.
Nice. And did you ever see the footage of Peter Mayhew speaking lines for Chewie?
Yes.
No, have him actually talk.
He has lines. Yeah.
That old man's crazy.
That old man's crazy. Yeah, you tell him, Chewie. How a man that tall is a soprano or a tenor, I do not know. But
I felt like I totally understood R2D2's beats. Like I just knew what he was saying.
R2's my favorite. For the weirdest thing is for a long time, I thought R2D2 was a girl. I always associated C-3PO as a boy and R2D2 as a girl. Maybe because my little sister is as rambunctious and as much of a smartass as R2D2 tends to be. That in my head, I always saw R2. I know it's a robot, so there is no. It's asexual, but or non-sexual, whatever. But
androgynous, I think is the term.
Yeah, there you go. So.
I wish Kenny Baker would have given lines.
He's just in there going, beep, boop, boop, you son of a bitch.
Don't forget about me.
Apparently, Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker hated each other. They were they did not get along. So
maybe that channeled into some of the antagonism that they have in the film.
Maybe.
You guys are talking droids. If you'll indulge me, I apologize, but I have very few pieces left, but they did come out with a droid factory. And I have like 6 pieces left from when I was a kid of where you could build. You could build an astromech. You could build all different kinds of droids. And I've got the other droids. So like, the medical droid, I got, Death Star droid and all them, but
nice.
Yeah, I mean, the droids were always great. I always liked the different droids they came up with. It was like, that was the one thing where it felt like Lucas, because you see those behind the scenes where he goes, which I felt bad for the creative types, where he'd come in, you'd see these paintings and models. These guys have been working on this stuff for like a month. And George comes in here and goes, yeah. Yeah. The guy's just back there going, no.
Every single time I see a garbage can that looks like gonk, I say gonk every time. I can't. It's a Pavlovian response. I'll just be like walking through gonk. Okay, but I have to.
But the droids always seem like they got a little more freedom in their design, which was nice. So
yeah.
But that's kind of why Lobot intrigued me, because
Cyborg,
Cyborg, and we don't really have that in canon. I think the only other one I remember was in Shadows of the Empire. I probably gonna butcher her name. Wasn't it Guri?
I think so. Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah,
she was like this blonde femme fatale cyborg who worked for the prince, the villain in it.
Zior, whatever.
Prince, yeah, and she looked completely humanoid, and I thought that was really intriguing and unique because we just don't have that otherwise.
Yeah, I think. Do you remember in Solo you saw that person with like half a face, like the top of the head was cut off? I think that's related to Lobot. I think they're from the same, not species but manufacturer. I don't know. I don't know the lore.
There's Guri from Shadows of the Empire right there.
Yep.
Yeah,
there she is.
Sexy cyborg game.
Lobot, you had to mail in to get him, I think, if I remember correctly. You had to get so many UPCs and you could mail in. Was it Lobot, I think, or it was one of.
I know they did that with the Empire. They did that with the Emperor and Boba Fett.
Yeah, they did that.
With, early Boba Fett.
Yeah, I don't have the.
It'd be great to see some Shadows of the Empire characters show up in Mandalorian, like Dash Rendar.
Dash
would be really
Rendar.
fun. That'd be really
Yes.
fun.
Well, I think
that'd
on
be
the
good
dark
time.
side, the droids were like less like humanoid. Especially they had the interrogation droid, the little sphere one, and I found out when I was playing Star Wars: The Old Republic that if you went like the full ranks of dark side, that you could get this as a pet. So I went really dark side. Like every option there was, I went dark side.
Kill everyone.
When we were going through, I forgot the name of the instance run that we did. There's like because in Star Wars: The Old Republic, when you make you can make light side choices or dark side choices, and when you're in there as a group, it's like majority rules is like the side that you go with, and you get dark side or light side points accordingly. And there was this part where we run up to the an engineer that was like operating the airlock, and you can choose to airlock him. And like,
blow him out.
And all of us like just suddenly pull out these red sabers, and I'm just like, oh, that guy's so screwed.
Sorry.
Dark side.
So evil though. We got a Sith over here.
Yeah.
And I got
It's like-
my little termination.
Vixie's got a side to her.
She has embraced the dark side, which is okay.
Oh yeah.
You know, my first playthrough of the Old Republic, I was a Sith assassin, and I went full dark side too. So I get it.
There's so many perks to it.
I mean, if
I was
we're
gonna
being
say-
honest, the bad guys look cooler than the good guys. Like
Bad guy.
I mean,
they have the
Red
coolest
Rocket-
masks, they have the coolest weapons, they have the coolest voices.
They were dressed in really cool black, and yeah, they had the
And-
coolest the weapons and ships, and yeah.
Yeah, and I was power gaming the Sith Warrior, so like I was like able to stack more damage like by going dark side.
It's so interesting to me that Disney has ignored the Old Republic, given how popular it seems to be in the fandom. I never played any of the games, so I'm not very familiar with it, but I see how much it excites the fandom, and it just feels like such an untapped gold mine to be
It
ignoring
is.
right now.
Yeah.
As long as they, I just wish they would pick better, more than 5 tracks from the entire Star Wars library of music, because like in at least the early games, there were like 5 tracks on every single game. It was like you're like, okay,
It's not like there's a lack of John Williams Star Wars music, if we're being honest. There's nary a second that goes by without John Williams scoring the hell out of it. I just imagine Lucas's notes like, no, more.
Yeah.
Like, we can do some silence in some of these scenes. No, more.
Louder,
All right.
stronger, faster,
All right.
more intense,
More
faster,
intense.
more intense. That's George Lucas's catchphrase. So let's move on. Let's move on to the special editions. What did you guys think of the special editions?
Shall we
It
go
was-
clockwise?
It was nice to have them back in theaters.
When-
I didn't
okay,
have a
so-
problem with this. I didn't have a problem with them.
They
They
it
haven't
was just-
aged well at all. You know.
Yeah. I mean, Larry's right. It was exciting just to see them on the big screen, because some of us, a lot of us that grew up loving them on video or watching, fuzzed out VHSs. It was our chance to see it on the big screen. That's why that first ad is, "You've seen Star Wars on the small screen, but now," and then the X-wing flies out of the TV. It's like it was an incredible experience to see them, especially because I'm assuming, Larry, like some of us didn't get to see the originals. We didn't get to see it till the 90s on the big screen.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have the cynicism we have now. Seeing it on the big screen was just
amazing.
Yeah.
Seeing it now, it's like, what's the point of putting the rock in front of R2D2? Like all the things that as adults we look at and we get all like pedantic about. Seeing it on the big screen was just like,
I had this great opportunity to see Force Awakens in stereoscopic 3D, which is a course that I'm doing at SAE at the moment, run by David Crow. And he, and that's why it was like, this is on the reading list. Like, are you kidding? This is my homework. This is fantastic. And yeah, I was like, suddenly when you see it in 3D, you realize that like a lot of the things that are like in the foreground and stuff are specifically there to like enhance the 3D, and it just leaks out of the screen so much more when those things are there.
It's a joy to see them, but the fact that there's continuously more special editions. When when Force Awakens came out, me and a friend of the show here, Chad Halverson, we went to the marathon. We saw episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a 24-hour period, sitting in a theater with a bunch of smelly nerds. It was glorious. I got that merit badge. You better believe it. And they played a version of the special editions that I had never seen. And the thing that struck me most was in Empire Strikes Back. Let's see if we can, as nerds, complete the scene. You didn't want me to leave without giving you a kiss. I'd sooner kiss a Wookiee. I can arrange that, you know. Yeah. What's the next line? Han walks away and yells, "You could use a good kiss."
Oh, yeah.
Not in the movie anymore. That line has been cut for some reason.
It's gone?
It's gone. And I thought I was crazy because he says, I can arrange that, and he walks away. And that's it. End of scene. And I thought, what the hell?
Well, yeah, that's
what a weird special edition choice.
McClunky.
My thing with the special editions was when they came out, my buddies and I saw it. We had grown up with it just like everybody here, I mean, it was ingrained in my DNA because it was like, holy crap. I watched it first movie and just, it was all around. My family loved it. I think I liked some of the things with Star Wars Special Edition, but I was disappointed because they got this budget to update the film. And he spent more money on putting extra stuff in you didn't need in Mos Eisley, because we get the fact that it's a starport, but he still, and I'm really going to get nerdy here, he still didn't clean up the matte boxes around the TIE fighters. Yeah. So you're watching it on the big screen, and in 1990s now, and you're getting fancy, the nifty new droids, yet you get the little white lighter dark space boxes around the TIE fighters as they're fighting the Millennium Falcon. And my buddy and I are like, you couldn't have cleaned that up.
I can still see through the frame of Luke's damn ship in Empire, but no, we get the guy from Return of the Jedi.
And CGI dewbacks and,
Or like the scene in Jabba's palace with Jedi. It was fine the way it is with Max Rebo's band, and in fact, I loved the puppet of Cy Snoodle. She was for what they did, it was amazing what they were able to get her to do, and to replace her with a really bad CGI. Yeah, and I appreciated seeing them on the big screen, but then the difference of changing a character from just one scene, Boba Fett goes from this mysterious, scary guy in the background that Jabba has as his bounty hunter to Pimp Daddy Mac before Luke comes in. And I'm like, why did you need to add that scene? Because the one scene changed his character in that film completely, which is why that's why I showed my kids this version of Star Wars, the last THX release before Special Edition.
Yeah.
When they wanted to watch Star Wars, I pulled out the VHS. I'm like, sit down. Don't worry. It's going to look not the best, but you want to see these. And I showed them that before the Special Edition.
The funny thing is that I think that...
Let's talk about Han shot first.
We're going to go there.
Let's go there.
I'll say this. We have now existed in a world where Greedo shot first longer than Han shot.
No.
That hurts.
Yeah.
That causes physical pain.
Like the entire freaking point is that Han shoots first because he is a bad guy. He's a tough guy. He's like, a badass. Right?
He's a rogue. He's a rogue.
And he's always looking out for number one himself. like that's his character, and therefore there is the story arc of him learning, like meeting Luke and Leia, and like growing as a person and learning to care about more than himself. Like that was the entire freaking point of it, and then they changed it. It's like just destroying story arc.
I think we would have forgiven all the special edition choices that George Lucas has done. All of it. I think we would have forgiven all of them if he hadn't changed that moment.
Yeah. Because there was, you know, and I heard his reasoning. Well, you know, you're trying to not make Han be such a cult. I'm like, no one that I ever knew said, wow, I would have liked Han had he not shot Greedo first. In my entire life ever said that. And they keep messing with that scene even worse. I didn't watch the whole
McClunky.
Yeah, I watched the latest clip and I'm like, wait, they messed with it again? When I saw Disney Plus came out, I'm like, what, did they put it back? I was kind of excited, like, no. And I watched the clip and I was like, okay, this is like a haircut you try to do yourself and you cut one side. You're like, no, I'm going to cut this side. And pretty soon you're bald.
Look, we got a whole movie where the entire lesson of the film for Han Solo was to shoot first. That's the entire lesson learned in Solo, is to shoot first.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to say that, yeah.
I agree with Jabba there. When I first saw Star Wars, I was terrified of Jabba because he was big and scary, and I was afraid he was going to come out of TV, sit on me, and that would be a really horrible way to die. Right? the like special ed one is like he's kind of a slug.
he's poorly CGI'd. Well, what's with that scene too? I understand why they cut it, and everybody was excited to have it back in. But if you listen to the dialogue, I'm like, Greedo just said that. I mean, it's like
right. I was going to say that the Greedo scene served the purpose of the Jabba scene, so they didn't need the Jabba scene. They had the Greedo scene that moved the story along.
You know, but the thing is, though, is that every time Star Wars is on the big screen, when it first makes its way to the big screen, there's a certain magic to it, I think. And you know, it like you can tear apart the special editions now, we can be cynical and critique it, but when they first came out, it was, you know, again, it was like episode 1 when that came out. There's a magic to it. Even when they announced that they were releasing the films in 3D, I think they only put out the first one, right?
They only put out
But even that, there was, again, this sense of awe and magic that only Star Wars is capable of generating with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's very few films where at the very beginning, everybody actually gets dead silent before the opening. I mean, when I took my kids to see it, because I'm happy there's more Star Wars on the screen because they get to see them in the theater. But I hardly know any films outside of Star Wars where everybody you just are waiting for that first note. You're just like, yeah.
You know, when Marvel starts up, everybody is immediately going wild. When Star Wars starts up, it is, like you said, dead silence until the first notes.
Well, see, you're not wrong. There
comes every year.
Oh, God, there is a magic to it. Like it transcends like whether you I hate this or don't like that. You see things like Brian, you have your collection of toys behind you, and I'm like looking at like, oh man, he's got a bantha. It's just the magic of Star Wars. Despite, I always say no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans, but even though they hate it, they're gonna watch and consume all of it.
Everything, yes.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Is that a opposable bantha over here? Like,
it's pretty big size here.
Oh my gosh, nice. That's so great. It's one of my favorite things from the original movies. Like, did they put a costume on an elephant? Like, I fucking love it. Look at that. That's great.
That's the one great thing about A New Hope, though. You know, I mean, you got the special edition, he cleaned it up, but that was part of the charm with A New Hope was the stuff they had to get creative about, because they did still have a limited budget to do that stuff. How creative they got with it, you know, and the special editions kind of took just a little bit away from that, because it got composited and stuff over in many spots. You know, like I was mentioning, Side Snoodle, the practical band they make for Max Rebo is impressive.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
And especially when you look. Go ahead.
I have I have a VHS player almost exclusively just so I can play the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS once a year.
I could lend you my fuzzed out one if you want.
I have one of those too.
Yeah.
I have really, really old tapes. And then I actually found a few years back those last VHSs, the one with Malton doing the interviews with Lucas. And I found a box that was completely in plastic, never used, never opened.
Wow.
And I was like, yes.
Vixie, did you say you had watched a version of Star Wars in 3D? What I just saw someone comment below. Were the Return of the Jedi, was that filmed to be in 3D? Like, had they intended it to be a 3D conversion when they filmed it?
I'm not sure about Return of the Jedi. I with Force Awakens, which was the one I saw. That
I see.
was.
I understand.
Okay. Yeah, Jedi wasn't, but the original plan was to do all of them in 3D. But that was when Disney bought Lucasfilm, and Disney said, "Well, it's not worth the money. We're not going to convert them." So it never got the 3D conversion.
Well, and Phantom Menace
make this again.
Yeah, Phantom Menace did not get the cha-ching. It is surprising Return of the Jedi didn't get the 3D conversion back in the day, because when it came out, if you had a third movie in a trilogy, usually it got a 3D version.
In the early 80s.
In the early 80s when 3D was coming back, Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th 3D, you know.
I don't know what they like. Okay, because when you do convert something into 3D, although you sort of fake it, you kind of have to have the basic material to begin with. So and I mean, one of when we're talking about effects, the original, because they were doing practical effects and stuff. My particular one I love the most is the Death Star blowing up. That, because it was a practical effect, there was just all these lovely little nuances of color that you can't fake it. It's the aesthetic and the feel of it, and just the dynamic range of it, you could only get from actually physically setting something on fire. So
the miniature work is incredible that they did.
When you then try to translate that with CG, you don't have certain tricks that you would have done, forcing the perspective and stuff to actually make the 3D dimensional. And
there was no friggin' ring. There was no ring. No
ring. Once Lucas started talking about and working on the 3D conversions, I think that was my first inclination that he was the first inkling that he was planning a sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, oh shit, this might actually be something that really happens.
And then it did.
In a way none of us expected.
You look at the behind the scenes of what ILM decided to do to pull off that magic, like the Death Star blowing up, like some of the other stuff that hadn't been done before, where they got inventive, that is now standard. But at the same time, they also used old school stuff that was used back when King Kong came out. The rear projection, the matte paintings against they did so much really cool stuff and inventive stuff. And don't get me wrong, CG nowadays, some of it looks really good, but I think it's taken a little bit away from their inventiveness of what they could do with practical cameras and effects nowadays.
CG enhancements, when it's all CG, you're just going to date yourself right away. That's looking at we talked, Vixie, you were talking about Jabba the Hutt earlier. That puppet is incredible, and enhancing it with some CGI is not a problem. But once you make a fully formed CGI Jabba, as good as it's going to look in 1999, it's not going to last that long forever. Yeah,
this is one of the main.
They did
things.
have when it had him as a puppet, there's like the scene that like ended up being where they CGI'd it was the fact that he had walked like one of the characters had walked over his tail, and in and in the original they just smoothly transition across, but like because he now has a actual tail there, they had to work out like, well, how are they going to interact with this tail?
I mean,
hey, there's the junk man. Thanks for coming on.
Finally here.
More Star Wars goodness to be had.
More Star Wars goodness.
Yeah.
We just had a big talk about Star Wars toys.
Oh, I have
I
Wi-Fi issues, so if I go out, that's why.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So what
So, I was gonna say, I'm not a huge fan of Rogue One at all,
Me either.
and one of the biggest issues I have with it is what I call CGI zombie Tarkin.
oh my god!
It looks so wrong.
Yeah,
And then
there's
for
a
the-
lot
and
of
then-
that.
And then the
Leia.
film ends. It ends. The last shot of the movie is that horrible, dead-eyed CGI Leia.
Yeah, dude, kills me every time.
It kills me.
Took my soul. By that point, I was so done with the movie anyway. Like the puns that Vader was throwing out, I was like, get the.
Do not choke on your ambitions. I mean, yeah, it's terrible.
Like, okay, all right.
They could have handled that so much better in many ways.
Yeah, there's an excellent fan edit, and fan edits, fan films were created by Star Wars fans, as far as I'm concerned. There's an excellent edit of Rogue One. It's a 45-minute movie. It's just called The Battle Scarif, and some of the beats that don't work in the actual film work suddenly with context removed. Like, we can just assume Cassian and Jyn Erso had a thing going on with the 45-minute version, as opposed to being like, why do they have a thing? They've known each other for a day. What's going on?
Yeah. There's so much Force stuff.
Can I
Okay,
get you guys a bit
I
of,
get so much.
to settle something? Okay, so a few of us got in a bit of an argument over who said it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Akbar.
Akbar.
There was, I've seen one where Princess Leia said it.
No, Akbar.
And I don't
Maybe
like
it's-
it.
That's a trap.
That's not what I've seen all the time.
In the original Return of the Jedi, you have it in your head that
They,
there was a Princess Leia version.
when Princess Leia and Lando they escaped.
Oh, she does. She yells it during Cloud City.
Yeah.
She's like, "Look, it's a trap! It's a trap!" Yeah. She does yell it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Empire
okay,
she yells
so
it.
it's said in both cases, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So everyone's right.
That would be
In
my
the rare
right.
occasion of Star Wars conversation, everyone is right.
Yeah.
Well, and we're talking Lucas's scripts, so he just reused some dialogue in parts. So
Just like poetry, it rhymes.
it is.
That's
It-
Right.
repeated.
It's interesting that's like the memory that you have about it, and then like a lot of people are like, "Oh, Admiral Akbar, clearly."
Yeah, that's the one that stuck in my head was Princess Leia, but I don't know
Yeah.
whether that's like I
Actually, it sounds like it came first if it's an Empire. So
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
there you
Yeah,
go.
it did come first.
It came first, but there were a lot of traps. You feel from the Empire. I have a feeling the rebellion said that a lot. That it's
Well, since Rogue One was brought up, I'd like to and I brought up Solo before. Instead of talking about prequel trilogy or sequel trilogy, just talk about those two interstitial films.
Yeah.
And for their faults, which one would argue there are many, I think aesthetically, Solo and Rogue
amazing.
One achieved something that the sequel trilogy didn't quite, and the prequel trilogy definitely didn't. And it's what Mandalorian's doing now.
agreed.
It is that it feels so much like Star Wars with the sets and the puppets and like Rogue One for all its problems. Just watching the Battle of Scarif is like watching the Pacific Front of a World War II movie, where the Death Star run is like the Battle of the Bulge. Like it's it's an incredible achievement of Star Wars stuff in the look and feel of it. So the galaxy's aesthetic,
tangible, and there's the dirt and the grime, and
like even
when they're transporting the Kyber crystals in Rogue One, that's like, I love that scene, but like I'll put that movie on as like a background thing because like I can't watch it as like an actual movie.
I like Rogue One. I didn't like it when I first saw Rogue One.
In Star Wars: The Old Republic, when you're actually interactively playing the game, so you're like when you put your own lightsaber together, it's just like really awesome moment.
It's.
I was just going to say the Rogue One and the Solo are potential. I wish they would have done better because I liked the fact we moved away at least a little bit from the normal what we had seen, that not everything takes place on Tatooine and Coruscant. There's other planets in the universe, and we actually get to see that in those two during that time period. And that's what I like about them. I mean, Rogue One, the first chunk of Rogue One, I didn't care for because I felt it was a little too heavy on. And yes, I'm a fan, but the fan service, I'm like the fact we run into our two favorite guys who were in the Tatooine cafe. He runs into him beforehand with a horrible looking mask. I'm like, why'd you have to put I mean, we know we're
Baba and Dr. Avazin.
We know we're in Star Wars.
Points to Brian.
We know we're in the Star Wars universe. You don't need to remind us where
does
we're
this take
at.
place in Star Wars? Can I see a recognizable
it
face?
Clearly does. It clearly does.
So, Mark, where do you stand on The Mandalorian then?
I have seen spoilers, so I haven't watched season 2. I love Mandalorian. I've loved the first season quite a bit. I see the appeal. It does feel like Star Wars. I'm like, this is what I wanted to see. I'm like, we've done enough with the same 5 planets. I want to see more of this universe because there's so much room to play in that. Why would you waste the opportunity to keep sticking to the same shipping lanes, so to speak?
Sure. I think Solo and Rogue One, probably not their intention, but they were like beta tests for the success of Mandalorian. I think if you look at Star Wars as a whole, Rogue One, Solo, and then what Filoni did with Clone Wars and Rebels, and you package all those ideas, and it's proof that people will accept Star Wars beyond the Skywalker saga. Right, beyond Jedis and Clone Wars, yes, Jedis for sure. But
we have both the Death Troopers now and the Scarif Troopers, Shore Troopers showing up in the Mandalorian. They're for sure using things from everything. Everything that's good, they keep. They're just kind of chucking the stuff that they don't like.
I just want to be in here too. I haven't had the chance to see Mandalorian yet.
You guys are gonna have to get out of here.
The film that I'm in with David Black, because my character has like the pointy ear and they green colored me. Like David Black and my friends are all like, "You look like Baby Yoda."
Let me see if I can find that picture.
So she's constantly spamming me with Baby Yoda, and I really do want to see it at some point. It's just that I had Netflix and it's like it came out on Disney Plus, and I was like, I can't really watch. I can't start to work, can I? I could. Maybe I should.
It'll be like Game of Thrones in a few years, where everyone will you'll have to watch it because if you don't
you're not part of the conversation.
What are you doing? You're not watching it? Sorry.
Vixie, are you on Facebook as Vixie? If I wanted to find you right now and maybe send you a bunch of MP4s, just hypothetically.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow, look at that.
You see it? Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the picture.
That's very cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
so
mentioned it.
Alien. Hold on. Foxy Alien. Hold on. I just looked that up. David, help us out here. Put it on the screen.
It is mentioned. I've had discussions with my friend who just happens to be in the chat as well. we do need more than a dozen different architectural designs, though. I mean, you could tell it's done by the same group and they try to vary it, but we're talking alien worlds. Give me some really, even if it's not the best, just give me some alien structure that you look at, go, wow. I mean, even when we got to in the prequels, you get to, what I call El Camino Royale. You look at what they designed, it's just like, okay, so you took flying saucers and you made them into, water buildings. Something really alien would be cool to see that I think we haven't quite got, kind of in the cartoons, but still, it would be great to see something live act that just totally alien, that where you can't really make heads or tails until you see the aliens in it, and then you can kind of piece together. But because
what Ryan Johnson wanted to do. His trilogy was going to take place in a whole other part of the galaxy that doesn't have any connection to Star Wars or what we've seen.
You've done it, House. You've evoked the name.
Ryan Johnson.
We're going to talk sequel trilogy now? Is that what's happening?
Well, I was going to talk prequel trilogy, but we can go right into the sequel trilogy if you want.
I love the prequels.
We could do prequel
trilogy. I'll talk prequels or sequel.
So what's the best prequel movie? Episode 3.
Oh, right? Easy.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Is anyone going to argue against that?
I was just saying, if anybody would say, "Look, Phantom Menace."
I love the pod racer scene. I'll put that on, just to enjoy that every once in a while.
That was cool in 3D. That was really cool in 3D. I did get a chance to see that in 3D.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan versus Jango is a fun sequence. I like that.
Yeah. Also, I do like the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. That's pretty badass. I'll watch that every once in a while too.
I've always thought, I've always said the prequels just structurally were built wrong. Episode 2 should have been episode 1. Episode 3 should have been their Empire Strikes Back. And then there's been a third.
Missed out on that third film, right?
The third film should have been Darth Vader hunting the Jedi. Padme is pregnant and trying to figure out the future of what she's going to do with these, 2 children inside of her. Obi-Wan has to figure out, if he can save his protege, and that should have been the third film. And I think we're going to get some of that with the Kenobi show, though.
Yeah,
which is really exciting.
Yeah, the ad campaign. Yeah, I remember the ad campaign for episode 1. Man, was I drooling? Did that get me so built up? And then I watched it, and I'm like,
the Duel of the Fates was number 1 on freaking Billboard. Like it was number 1 on TRL the week it came out. Of all things, that's the everything leading up to it.
Sometimes, and doesn't it just give you chills as a song? The track.
It's John Williams doing his thing. Honestly, the best version of episode 1, the best version of episode 1 that we should have got, humor aside, was Weird Al's Saga Begins, because Obi-Wan was the perspective character. Like Obi-Wan's the POV character in Weird Al's Saga Begins, telling the exact movie we saw. That's the character we should have saw it through the entire time.
You had to evoke Weird Al.
I did.
I was singing the Weird Al version.
I love the story behind that too, because all he did was piece together his dialogue from leaked parts of the script. He had never actually saw the actual movie or script before he wrote it, and he got just the photo, if I remember the story. That was the only licensed thing that Lucas would let him release. But he had found leaks and stories and pieced together, and his story is actually what I wanted to see. Well, I mean, I think the Phantom Menace, where the issue lies is you're thinking you're going to get this story, and they teased it. I mean, that great poster where kid Anakin's standing and it's the shadow of Vader, all that hype up, and then you get it, and you're basically looking at a story that, okay, the whole point of this is these two meet, and Obi-Wan meets up with Anakin. I'm like, you could have covered that in like 5 minutes you could have done that in a crawl in the first movie.
That's what they should have done. That whole Phantom Menace should have just been a crawl for part of a crawl. Not even a whole crawl, just part of a crawl.
Has anyone read the novelizations? Like, has anyone read the canon books? Yep. Okay, so the Phantom Menace novelization is quite good, because there are certain things in the novelization based on the first draft of the script, not the shooting draft. There are just slight changes that improve what we got. Like the opening sequence of the book is a pod race, and we don't see the passenger in Anakin's pod until he crashes, and then he climbs out and it's a kid, and then he sits down and waits to get picked up.
If that's going to be our hero, that's who we should see in the opening shot, right?
There's a scene where he built C-3PO to translate the Tusken Raiders, so that the Tusken Raiders and the Jawas couldn't screw Anakin on buying parts for Watto. Right, so just that little detail there, right, helps. And even better is when he gets pulled up on the ship up to the not Death Star, and he's fighting. The line in the movie is, "Now this is pod racing." In the book, he cowers underneath the console and says, "This isn't pod racing." And that tiny little change, he's a little kid, is beautiful. And it's R2 like taking control and giving him a chance where he rises to the occasion and saves the day. Those tiny little changes would have made the movie 1,000 times better.
Yeah, the prequel books came out a couple weeks before the movies did, so I got to read the books before I saw the movie. Yeah. And I saw the movie, and I'm like, well, I was expecting something. It just wasn't the same. So
just the idea of treating Anakin as a real child thrown into this great big galaxy, would be a huge shift in that film.
It's a great moment. But alternatively, if I may, after reading the prequel, the episode 1 novelization, I was like, wow, this made the movie more enjoyable. I'm excited to read the second book, because the second movie is really problematic in Stalker Anakin, right? So I thought, you know what might happen here? I might get more insight into his psyche and what's going on in his head that leads to the choices that we're getting. The book makes it worse. He is not, and like Padme's perspective is like, I don't like this guy. He's effing crazy. I don't want anything to do with him. It just doubled down on everything wrong with the second movie.
I don't want to go in Anakin's head. No.
This was a mistake.
I've always said that George Lucas is a fantastic storyteller, but just a horrible writer.
Yep. Yeah, he can create worlds. He can create concepts. The world he built, great. Just don't write a script.
It's why, and we're off the prequels for a moment, but that's why Empire Strikes Back is the best piece of cinema, like the best of the films, because you put it in the capable hands of Irv Kershner. You give a story credit to George Lucas. You have the screenplay written by someone else. You make really bold choices based off of one thing we got before. It elevates the material so much, and the good graces of Empire is why the fan base truly exists. As much as New Hope did what it did in terms of creating a fandom, it was Empire that solidified it as this thing in the zeitgeist forever.
As great as some of the other lightsaber battles we've had, how great is Luke versus Vader in Empire? The way it's directed, the way it's shot. I mean, Vader fighting him with one hand for most of the, it's just, there's so much stuff in that fight scene with him that is just beautiful.
Oh, what was the comment below? I didn't see it. Yeah, absolutely. Like you can do still frames from Empire, and it goes side by side with movies that are made today in terms of like the look and cinematography. Great concept. Yeah, absolutely, Jim. I agree.
Random fact: The Return of a Man Called Horse, directed by Irvin Kershner.
Well, look at that.
Look at that.
I knew that. I was just,
The circle is complete.
So I have a question for you guys. This kind of maybe off topic, but this goes to ethics. The special edition is it okay for Lucas to change Star Wars? I don't remember who said this. Maybe TC, but a director said that once you release a film, it's not yours anymore. It belongs to the people.
Yeah.
The Library of Congress wanted Star Wars, but Lucas wouldn't give him the 77 edition of Star Wars.
He tried to give him this, but so Star Wars is not in the Library of Congress. Empire is.
So what do you guys think of the ethics of changing Star Wars?
Vixie, if I'm right, you said you're in film school right now?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. I guess you'd be the first person that might have an opinion on this, of the ethics of that. No. Okay. I was just curious if that's something that might have been discussed within the class.
It's a deep question. I didn't want to put anybody on the spot.
I don't know about the ethics of it, but I think it's just. I think once George Lucas had like a more creative control than most directors even have. So for him to go back and like tinker with things, I understand cleaning things up and like they do like restorations and like 4K and things like that. That stuff makes sense to me, but like adding so much and changing so much.
Yeah,
I don't the value. I don't know if it's there and like.
What happens is it's as though we are being told we were wrong to like what we liked.
Right.
Oh, you like that? You were wrong. This is what you should like, and that's a bit offensive. It hurts to say like I loved this thing, and you changed it, and now it's not just that you changed it, but that you won't even let me experience the real anymore. Like we haven't gotten a clean release of the original. And it's because Lucas says, well, that's not the one I wanted you to see. It's like, well, that's the one we love, damn it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've said this before that I don't support piracy, but those fan restorations of the original trilogy are pretty incredible.
Yeah. What were you saying, Larry?
I was saying, isn't that really the bigger issue? Because you have different director's cuts of films all the time. Ridley Scott, Kingdom of Heaven is a completely different movie and a much better film through its extended director's cut. I think the difference is that the original cuts are still readily available for people. And if Lucas had made the original trilogy readily available, there wouldn't be that level of debate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, exactly. I really love director's cuts. Two of the ones that particularly stood out to me was by Ridley Scott, Blade Runner, and the other one was Suicide Squad. I actually thought director's cut version of that was so much better. It was
Batman
so
versus
much
Superman.
better. Yeah. I mean, it's great, like, to be able to compare them as well. That, like, you can see, like, the cinema release and then the director's cut, and plus, like, you get like that bonus director's cut in your DVD, which is nice too.
Yeah.
When did we start getting director's cuts? I don't.
We remember Terminator 2. I've got the box set of Terminator 2 director cut. It's 2 VHS tapes that has extra like 20 minutes of footage that he wanted to leave in, but he cut because of length. So that was one of the first director's cut, at least I got. I think that's why the special editions rubbed many of us fans kind of raw, was that we thought maybe we were going in getting a restored version, and then we got this super modified version where you've changed a lot of things that we love, and we're like, okay. But then he came out and said, well, that's my definitive vision, not the other one. You're not going to get the other one. I think that was the mistake he made. He should have just let both copies breathe out there in the world, rather than saying, well, this one, my special edition, is the one that I want. These other ones don't even exist. That's where he went wrong with. I have nothing wrong with special editions and a filmmaker wanting to go back years later and tweak it, as long as you keep those original ones for an experience, which is why I show my kids, when they first wanted to see Star Wars, I showed them the original THX ones first before we watched the special editions, because I wanted them to see what the original concept was. Nothing wrong with tweaking it, fine, go ahead, but just don't eliminate or act like the other one doesn't exist, like the holiday special. It's there, it exists. Sorry, Lucas. Good or bad.
Like the Ewok films, need to bring those in.
Going back to Caravan of Courage, and so you guys are talking when I walked into the room here.
Yeah.
The first director's cut was in 1974. The Wild Bunch.
Oh, there you go.
Shown in Los Angeles to sold out audience. It had an extra 10 minutes. Then the next director's cut after that was
Caligula.
George Lucas's first two films being re-released following the success of Star Wars. So it was a THX 1138, a director's cut of that.
I know, like
he was the first tinkerer, really, I guess.
I'm against the colorization of films. That wasn't the original vision.
Oh my god, yeah.
However,
There's nothing
So,
wrong with
text is key too, because most of the time you have a director's cut, it's because sacrifices were made, or there was studio interference, or disagreements about something like whether there should be a voiceover in Blade Runner or not. Lucas didn't have that. Lucas had
Full
pure
control.
freedom for everything throughout the process.
Yes. And that goes to, we were talking about the size of the budget earlier versus what the later films are. We're talking about special editions, and to go back to the prequels, I think the restrictions and limitations that may have led to George Lucas thinking he needs to go back and fix what he couldn't do, we can see in the prequels what happens with carte blanche when he's not told no about anything. We get them shooting first draft scripts for some reason and getting a prequel trilogy that in concept is good. And over time, people have come for, Brian, you said earlier, you really like the prequel trilogies. I believe that was you who said it, right?
Yeah. The Clone Wars has helped that. Like there's other stuff that like really enhances the prequels for sure.
Yeah, so being given restrictions, being told no by the studio or for your budget or for visual effects, yada yada yada, I think can result in problem solving and using what you've got. When he was able to do everything he wanted, how he wanted to do it, we get the prequels, which have their problems, and I think that says a lot.
It's kind of the Deadpool approach of sorts. When Deadpool, they only got a certain amount of money, and then when they decided to do Deadpool 2, if I remember correctly, the filmmaker said, "Don't give us a lot of money. Give us a smaller budget so we can, get. We don't want the carte blanche, And it's,
you're right. It's
limitation breeds innovation.
Right.
But if I may segue off that for the group here, it's him not being given restrictions and being given total creative control. Despite what we got one man's vision, which we don't have. And someone just commented below here that the original trilogy exists because of so many incredibly talented artists and creators and working in conglomeration to give us, yes, Jim right there, to give us the original trilogy that we all still love and hold so dear. The prequel trilogy, yes, still had plenty of people, plenty of creative, amazing people working on it, but under the myopic vision of George Lucas. There's a good in that, because to segue to the sequel trilogy, we didn't have one person going, this is what it's going to be. We had tons of creative influence, tons of incredibly talented people, but no singular vision. So it's like, you can look at the original
if they let like Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau do the sequel trilogy, where we'd be these days.
Where we'd be. And honestly, I will immediately complain about episode 9. That episode 9 is very clearly what JJ intended for 8 and 9, crammed into 2.5 hours. The midpoint of that movie is Rey and Kylo fight. That's the climax of movie 1, with Rey leaving and Kylo having his moment with Han and being left there. You could open the next movie with him walking over the crest and find Finn and Poe going like, "It's the bad guy." And he's like, "Guys, I'm a good guy now." Right? And JJ crammed all that in there. And had we gotten 7, 8, and 9 just under JJ, I think we would have been in a much better place than we are now, which is just has spaghetti everywhere.
Yeah, singular vision, like you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Rant over, please. Someone else.
Any one singular vision would have been better than
all of it.
JJ and Lawrence Kasdan, they had an outline of 7, 8, and 9. They said this is where 8's going to be and this is where 9 is going to be. Ryan Johnson came along and nope, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't like that. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to write my own story. And he
was just setting up his own trilogy, and it just like was infuriating with that kid with the broom. I was just like, you suck so much.
Yeah. I'm going to stay quiet.
I've got a lot of problems with The Last Jedi. I like, there's parts that I liked about it. It's a beautiful film. Cinematography is amazing, but it just didn't have anything. Like somebody said before that, you see Star Wars and you see magic, you see this magic on screen. I didn't feel that with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I could have cared less at the end. The Force Awakens, I loved it. I'm like, oh my God, Star Wars back. At the end, I'm like, oh man, 2-year wait. Oh geez, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Last Jedi, I could have cared less for Episode 9. You know, the big thing that I really loved about The Force Awakens was that chemistry between Finn and Rey. I thought they were amazing together. What does Rian Johnson do? He tears them apart. You know, that's the best thing about The Force Awakens. And Rian Johnson introduces Rose Tico, the most uninteresting, poorly written character that could have been in a film,
and just gave Finn no arc at all. Just was like
he was comic relief. He was
kind of
just comic
done.
relief.
You're just done in this.
You know, he
think
was in there for the yucks.
Finn got shorted throughout the entire trilogy, though. I know you guys are big on, you know, but Finn got shorted throughout. There's an interesting story there. You get it beginning in, you know, The Force Awakens, and I personally love Last Jedi. I'll be quiet here, but I personally loved Last Jedi only because it was fun. They were doing something different, whether or not it was good or bad. They were doing something different, which is what I kind of wanted because of what we had gotten for, at least from Lucas, like we all said, the same vision for so long. I'm like, okay, they're trying to take it into a new direction for a new generation, because let's face it, most of us who grow up with this, it's not made for us anymore necessarily. And we tend to forget that it's made for the age what we were when we first saw these, and he was trying to do something different that would have appealed to more, because I know younger fans who really like it, and those who are older fans really hate Last Jedi. I personally liked it. And then you see what they do with Finn, though, in the, you know, Skywalker saga. It's like, here's a character who was a former Imperial, turned good, but he's still conflicted. You could have done so much with him, and we get like a 5-minute burst in the, you know, the Skywalker saga, and that's it, where he's talking to the leader of the group on the one planet where the Death Star remnants are, and you get that wonderful moment, but that's all he gets.
The Trevorrow script did so much better with Finn. If anyone here has not read it, I highly recommend seeking out. There's Mr. Sunday Movie animated the whole thing if you're interested, or Jenny Nicholson does a great read through the whole script as well. What they did with Finn, it was squandered potential. And I'm with you. I'm actually in the camp of I like parts of Last Jedi. What I liked most walking out of it, it sort of had like a Matrix Reloaded situation for me, where I was like, okay, this is going to be dependent on where they go from here. Because I walked out of Last Jedi and I thought, good job, Rian Johnson. You took all options off the table that would lead to them remaking Return of the Jedi. Good job, okay? You have set the table to not repeat and just get the same old, same old. You didn't make Empire Strikes Back. You hammered out all the beats that could have been done. Cool. Where do we go from here? You sons of bitches. God damn it.
God Ray. We need God Ray. God of all Jedi.
I don't think that the story of the sequels is over yet in terms of these characters or eventually the legacy of the sequel trilogy. I think that, especially because of Disney Plus now, that anything is open. All options are open. And I wouldn't discount the idea of eventually seeing more of Finn, more of, Rey Skywalker, etc., in other media in a way that maybe even enhances the overall sequel trilogy the same way the Clone Wars enhances the prequels.
I'm with that. I hope for it, because that's the only savior. That would be the only savior for those.
It's happened once. It can happen again. The EU can save a trilogy, because the prequel trilogy has plenty of haters for many years, and suddenly with like Brian mentioned, the Clone Wars enhanced so much of all of those characters. It's honestly, if I may for a second, the final season of Clone Wars that Disney Plus let Filoni do, I'm getting goosebumps right now just remembering it. When they opened up with the original Lucasfilm logo for the final 3 episodes of Ahsoka, is without a doubt the best prequel movie that isn't a prequel movie that we got. That 3-part Ahsoka, Rex, Darth Maul doing the actual fanfare for Star Wars. Oh my God, I was all in.
So good.
Yeah. How many of us would want a movie version of Dark Empire, though? Did you guys read Dark Empire from Dark Horse?
The original Zahn trilogy for sure.
I grew up on all that.
I loved Dark Empire.
Jim brings up a good question here, and Jim, you are not wrong. There's a great I could find it right now. There's a great review of Empire Strikes Back that I loved to pull out when people were like just eviscerating Last Jedi after it came out. And I was like, look at this great review for the sequel to Star Wars here. And it's just like, what's with all these new Force powers? Who this stupid new character? This big dumb reveal, like all these complaints. And it's like, oh wait, actually I misread the headline. This was a review for Empire Strikes Back. So you're not wrong that there was a contingent of fans who were like, Empire's stupid.
Much smaller though than The Last Jedi. I remember when Empire came back. Well, there were some people that didn't like it. Those were mostly the critics. Yeah. Most of the fans loved it.
You know what didn't exist back then that would have really hurt?
Oh my God, yeah.
The internet.
Yeah. If the internet were out when Empire Strikes came back, I'm guaranteeing you it would have had a different reception then.
You had too many people. You actually had to like write your opinion in, then send it into the magazine.
Write a strong worded letter. Yeah. God damn it!
So they hope they pick their letter that will publish a month later after you wrote it, or 2 months later. So yeah, way to show them.
Yeah, Jim, you are speaking truth here as you ask your rhetorical questions. I don't know if they're rhetorical, but you are correct in these assumptions that
we're gonna relive it, guys, too, through The Mandalorian. I bet you season 2 ends with some really tragic.
Oh yeah,
you're not gonna get the resolutions that you hope for. So
well, there's fan theories that Grogu is gonna turn bad. So who knows?
I don't know if that's gonna happen in this season, but like his using the dark side powers is pretty,
Sith Grogu.
Sith Grogu is a
dark robe.
I'm in the Mandalorian Grogu camp. I think it's gonna...
you can get a little Sith, just a little guy.
Just a little guy.
We'll just move some letters around. He's a little shit. He's just a little shit.
I think I would see Grand Admiral Thrawn as big bad of the whole series. Like, I mean, with all because they announced 2 more shows and it's going to all have some giant mini series of some kind. I think that it's building to Thrawn as the ultimate big bad of this whole thing.
Yeah, because Moff Gideon never felt like a big, like the true big bad. Like, like I was always hoping for somebody like bigger than him.
Yeah, sorry for the spoilers. I think we're being a little bit.
Exactly, Jim. Exactly.
Are we getting? Wait, we're not allowed to do spoilers.
Yeah. No. I think
we're talking about Star Wars. This stuff has all happened.
It happened a long time ago.
All right, fine, fair enough.
I remember.
Order is because in tragic sequence Yoda was.
For my money, there's no reason not to cast Lars Mikkelsen, who voices Thrawn in the animated series. There's no reason not to cast him. He's a fantastic actor. Throw him in some blue paint and black hair and red eyes, and you got literal Thrawn. But I know there's plenty of talk out there of like, oh, get Fassbender and get someone of note.
Maybe Cumberbatch, but he's in so much. But I could see Cumberbatch possibly pulling off. But you're right, nothing wrong with getting Lars Mikkelsen. I loved him in friggin' Hannibal. I felt so bad. Hannibal. He was so.
Well, that's
good.
Mikkelsen. That's Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, that's Mads. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen is Galen Erskine.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I got my
superb theories.
There is precedent now for like taking one of the characters from the animated series and putting them in live action.
Yeah,
so
Katie Sackhoff with
their animated voice actor.
Playing Bo-Katan.
Yep. So
and superb theories with The Last Jedi was objectively a good film, but it just wasn't Star Wars. Totally agree.
Yeah, and it was boring. At the end of the day, it was like tragic when we were just sitting in that casino, just wasting my time.
I fully admit, as much as I love Last Jedi, they could cut the whole casino bit. Don't give that part. I'm fully on board with everyone. I'm like that. Just they could have removed, but the one concepts. Yeah,
one page in the graphic novel adaptation.
One concept I liked that came out of Last Jedi that I was kind of hoping they would explore, though, was more of the idea of the gray versus, light versus dark.
That would have been fun.
The person just is a force sensitive person who's a person. They're both good and bad. I like that. You could see that's where they were kind of leaning towards with it with Rey, because in Last Jedi, she just immediately jumps in the cave where everybody else is kind of hesitant and jumping into their test cave for Jedi. She just jumped right in because she doesn't care. She just wants answers. It wasn't that she was being attempted. She just wanted answers, and so they played at this idea of Rey being more of a gray, not Sith, not Jedi, just a person with the Force.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see that angle explored more, because I think you could do a lot with that versus, oh, you're good, you're bad. I mean, as much as that's great, we've had that so much that you know.
Well, I think Luke toyed with the dark side too a little bit. You know, we saw that on Dagobah a little bit. So
yeah. And
okay, but ultimately, I mean, the prequels were about
kind of getting the balance, though. It's more about like staying even on both sides, kind of.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, in technicality, you know, the Emperor and Vader did balance the Force in that they just eliminated the light side completely, and so there's the dark side. So there you go. There's your balance. They gave you balance, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But the prequels were about, you know, a child of light being thrown into darkness, and then the sequel trilogy is about a child who's born into darkness choosing the light. And when you look at it that way, I think it's a really cool, you know, really beautiful story overall. Yeah. But I'm a fan of all three of those films. I don't think you have to pick JJ's version over Johnson's version. I think all three of them are actually a lot more cohesive than people give it credit for.
Yeah, it does come down to being pedantic and nitpicking, and I wish it was this and not this. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like pizza. It's still good. It's still pizza. It's still Star Wars.
It's still like, Star Wars.
Yeah,
we're still
maybe if it like didn't intersect so much with the like and claim to be part of the like Skywalker saga, it would have been an okay trilogy on its own. But like I think claiming that and like trying to like
almost forcing it, if you will,
forced awakening, you know.
Well, that's why I was kind of hoping that Rey actually didn't come from anyone. Yeah. Which I think that was squandered.
You got that.
That was something that Rian Johnson, that idea, and Broom Boy, if we will, it was. And to go back to Mark, what you're saying, that this is meant for kids. It's meant for this youthful, dreaming audience, and not the cynical adults that we all are. That something that Rian Johnson did that I liked was anyone can have the Force. It was a message so better presented in something like Into the Spider-Verse, where anyone can wear the mask. With Last Jedi, there was that the idea put out there. It's like, hey, even you kids sitting at home, your mom's making you clean the house, you can pick up that broom and maybe you could be a Jedi too. Like, I liked the concept. I like all the concepts in the sequel trilogy, to be honest. And there are good moments that are good Star Wars moments through all three.
Yeah, I think, like I said, if you could pull away the Skywalker saga relations, I think they are good films, and they're interesting films. They talk about a lot of interesting things, and
it's that general thing, though, like we all agreed, is that the minute you connect it to Skywalker, there's so much more baggage that gets attached to it, to where if you did this almost as your own thing, I think it would have been more accepted. I mean, you know,
if it had been removed more so, where like the idea of the Jedi and Luke Skywalker and all that were just myths, that we didn't have to crowbar in our heroes and watch them die, right?
Yes.
Which is so painful to experience. Actually, if I may, my Force Awakens experience in the theater, like I said, I sat through that 24-hour marathon. The guy next to me I knew was problematic when the special edition ending of Jedi happened, and he had never seen it before. So when Hayden Christensen popped up, he would, what the hell? Like, just right? I should have known what I was in for, because he's directly next to me in this packed theater. There's the actually quite well done sequence where Kylo's on the bridge with Han. You know, Ben, and he goes.
I like that sequence. Yeah,
and it's the light.
I said that a few times during the Last Jedi.
you can feel the tension building. It's mounting, the cinematography, the performances from two very fine actors. Everything's mounting this moment. And, we're all sitting there like, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. And the guy next to me is literally rocking in his chair going, nope.
No.
And as soon as it happened, he stood up and went, no, 30 years of my life. And then his girlfriend says, Jason, sit down, please. No. And he stormed out of the theater. And so here I am watching one of my heroes have his last moments in cinema and trying to appreciate the gravity of that while also watching this incredible meltdown.
That's how I felt during The Last Jedi.
Unfortunately,
you were rocking there going, don't do it.
Don't do it.
I was. Well, I had major surgery 2 weeks before The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
I already had my tickets. I bought my tickets in October. I was diagnosed with cancer, had surgery, major surgery, had half of my chest removed, and I got wires and tubes coming out of my side. But I'm like, I'm going to go see Star Wars. I don't care. So 2 weeks after major surgery, I'm drugged up on all these painkillers, and I'm sitting there watching The Last Jedi, and I see fucking Leia blow off into space and then float back. I'm like, what the hell? Oh my god!
You're like, oh, these pain pills are just scary.
I never see this one. Not on drugs.
my problem.
She's always had the Force powers. Like they totally reference those things.
I had Force Awakens spoiled for me the night before. Someone went to a press screening, and all it was one picture. It was a picture of Han, and it was a picture of Ren, and it said, Ren, the son of Han, kills Han Solo.
Oh my god.
And it was a picture, and it wasn't even on a Star Wars thread. It was on like a different show thread altogether. And I'm scrolling, and that's something that you just, you can't avoid when you're scrolling. The way they made it, I'm just scrolling and went, oh.
Yeah.
I was invited to a press screening of it the night before, but I wanted to go with my friends. So I
Jim, to answer your question, for me, when did I know Han's fate was as soon as that scene began, and Ben, and he calls us son. As soon as that happened, just the knowing the language of film as I do.
Yeah, surprising and inevitable, right?
Yeah. It was the only other scenario running through my head is like, well, maybe Chewbacca will die. What's going to happen here? Like,
it's like poetry. It's like poetry.
Crying when Chewbacca yells out. That's when I finally got really emotional about it. I was like, oh man.
God, there's
it's
a beautiful
Chewbacca is on his own, dude. Nobody can even understand him.
Yeah. There's this beautiful little
apparently
comic.
everybody can.
Oh yeah, well.
There's a wonderful little comic strip that someone made of that moment of Chewbacca saying no, and then it shows like just frame by frame of him meeting Ben as a baby and playing catch with him and and babysitting him as he grows up, and then being sad when he leaves, and then to see how that like just heartbreaking. Ugh. Chewbacca.
Yeah. I love Chewbacca.
Yeah, that was, what was that? But see, you could see hints of what they were trying to do with Ren even then, because even though he kills Han, the way it's played by Adam Driver is actually really well, because even then, it's not exactly out of cold blood. And that's what I've liked about Ren. At first, I didn't like him. When you first see him in Force Awakens for like the first 20 minutes, shut up, you whiny brat. And then as he's gone along, especially in the whole trilogy, and it's the way Driver did it and the way they tweaked his character. I liked him by the end of the trilogy. I did not like him at the beginning at all, and by the end I'm pulling for him. I don't care how ridiculous people talk about passing the lightsaber by the Force. That is one of the coolest scenes, and the fact that he does the little motion too, like I love that bit. That bit just got me.
Adam Driver is the superior actor in the entire sequel trilogy.
So here, I have a question for you guys. I have a question. So when he says, "I know what I need to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it," what was he meaning? What did he mean by that?
He has to kill his past, like to truly embrace the dark side, to truly become Darth Vader. He needs to kill any chance he has at the light, and so he had to kill Han. Sorry, spoiler. Whatever. Han, Miss. Oh, I'm sorry, Vixie. Did you? I did.
She saw it in 3D.
Okay. You're right. Okay.
See it in 3D.
Do you think
Yeah,
he wanted to give? Do you think he wanted to give Han the lightsaber? Because it kind of seems like he was
sure.
starting to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I can feel the conflict in you.
But like I said earlier, it's like poetry. Luke couldn't kill his father. Why did he have to kill Han? Why did Kylo Ren have to kill Han?
Because Luke didn't. He had to be in some way. I mean, if you want to bring it in some obscure roundabout way, now that you asked it, Luke didn't kill his dad. And in here, I think Ren feels he so wants to be bad, but he's not. And the more that he realizes that he can't be bad, the harder he tries, but the harder he tries, the better person he becomes, the more conflicted he does.
Yeah.
So that's what's so fascinating about his character is I don't think he really truly wanted to kill his dad, but it was one of those things where he's a young guy and he's like, no, fuck it. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I did it. Like a frat boy drinking, chug along, chug. No, I'm not going to do it. Okay, yeah. And then he goes back into his room when no one's looking and crying his heart out or puking, going, why the hell did I do that? Oh my fuck. Oh, so yeah, it's the Ren character became very fascinating when at first I was a little worried about what they were doing with him. And
Adam Driver just elevates all that material so incredibly. Rachel
an
just asked,
actor.
Oh yeah, for sure. Rachel just asked us which character we like the most and or relate to the most. I'm curious about that as well. Who's
Boba
everyone's
Fett.
favorite character?
I know it's a canned answer, but Boba Fett. I've always just liked Boba Fett.
But who do you think you're like the most?
Oh, who do I think I'm like the most?
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
So Boba Fett. Oh yeah, okay.
The fat man. Oh yeah.
Liam Numb. Okay, here we go.
I'm pen pals with I'm pen pals with Jeremy Bullock.
Nice.
Brian, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Anakin Skywalker. His
Which
tragic child.
Jake Lloyd, Hayden Christian.
The whole character.
Well, the whole character, yeah, like the arc of him from the tragic childhood and like losing everything that he loved, and then becoming just like trying constantly to find that love and that like acceptance, which was totally against what he was being taught.
The final moment of Series 7 of Clone Wars, where he goes to the planet's iced over and he picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah,
gorgeous. No words. Like there's no dialogue. It's just that moment and having experienced all of Anakin's story. That moment is just.
But yeah, like, and then also like just always that constant, like, I think that's what Star Wars does best, is it's just like has these characters who are just so dynamic. There's both that light and dark in every one of them, and like you see the conflict, like what are they going to choose, and that's what makes them all so interesting, is how that defines who they are as a character. And I think Anakin was just was done well. I think there's a lot of dynamic to him.
Vixie, how about you? You said R2D2 earlier. Is that your favorite character?
My very favorite character. I'm not really sure which character I like the most. Anybody have any opinions of like?
I think I sense some Ventress in you, because you, though you like R2, which is a good character, you like the Sith stuff, right? So there's a little bit of darkness in you too.
Oh, I hope Ventress shows up in the Ahsoka show or something.
I didn't even think of that. Oh my god! I'm just doing my job, man. Poor guy. Great, deep, good cut there, right? Yeah, I see some Ventress in you, Vixie. Plus, Ventress has some of the coolest animated lightsaber fights in the entire canon. From Tartakovsky to the Clone Wars.
Oh, the Airna.
Yeah, those the Cartoon Network limited Clone Wars
were sick.
So that first series
Incredible.
where there was very little dialogue in it. I watched those so many times. I
have my DVD. Those are amazing.
Yeah, I think Filoni has done a good job of maintaining that as canon, despite it not being officially canon. If you watch it in conjunction with everything, it still fits. It does not.
The General Grievous in there is so badass.
Oh my god,
Dirge in there.
Yeah, Filoni is the spiritual successor to George Lucas.
100%.
Yeah.
Larry, how about you? Who's your guy? Who's your character?
I have to go with the Mandalorian with Din Djarin.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love this arc of this bounty hunter lone wolf who has been indoctrinated into this Mandalorian cult that he didn't even realize was a cult. And now he's got this child, and he's realizing throughout the course of the series that what he thought was the way, this is the way, that there is a completely different way. And he's going to have to make a choice about this at some point down the line.
Yeah, he's confronting that like crazy in season 2. It's been wonderful. Like, and the way that they've had different characters like confront him in different ways, like with the helmet things, and just like
him removing the helmet in that latest episode, like by choice, was just like a gigantic moment in terms of realizing that the people who raised him, maybe didn't have his best interests at heart, that maybe these were extremists. And he's like, was I in a cult? Like, it's so great.
Honestly, it's dawning on me right here in this moment that he represents a portion of Star Wars fandom where people, there's certain segment of Star Wars fans like, this is Star Wars, and to be enlightened on, there's more than you're looking at to what Star Wars is. You can think Jake Lloyd's Anakin Skywalker is crap, but if you look at what Star Wars has presented with that character, you get a very full and real character. This isn't the way. This is not the way of Star Wars. There's a much bigger picture.
Is how far would you go to save your kid?
Oh my God, yeah.
And that's the great arc of him right now. How far would you go? That message at the end to Gideon, where he's like, "There is nowhere."
Dude, butterflies. There's so many butterflies.
I will hunt you to the darkest, deepest corners of the galaxy to get my kid back. And there's nothing more powerful than that, I think.
Oh, I just love that. It was the exact words that Gideon had used. It was that was powerful. Powerful moment. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you, man? What's your character?
Well, picking a favorite one is tough.
No, you have to pick one. This is Star Wars.
Just one? Well, no, actually, it's tied. In all honesty,
Dice Noodles, isn't it? It's Dice.
It's Dice Noodles. So, I mean, everybody already mentioned them that are really good. Personally, I'm tied with what Jim mentioned, Admiral Piet and Wedge. They're the two characters that I really love that survived. Well, one of them survived nearly to the very end of the credits of Jedi. And they're the one thing of where you don't think of it at first, but they add so much continuity to the entire film by having those two guys show up throughout, the trilogy, the original trilogy, that I think it adds just a little bit of extra world building by having those two guys carry it out throughout the film, even though they're the minor characters and they only show up so much. Them when they show up on screen, you're like, oh, that's Wedge. When Wedge shows up in Skywalker, the last episode there, the crowd went more nuts for when Wedge showed up than when any other character showed up in the movie. It was Wedge and the entire crowd just like, yeah. It was like, so I really like those characters. As far as
have you I posited this to everyone, but Mark specifically, have you read From a Certain Point of View?
No, not yet.
I cannot 100%. Everyone listening, everyone who's in the sound of my voice, seek out From a Certain Point of View. It is a retelling of A New Hope from all tertiary characters. So it's short story after short story of someone who's at the cantina, the trash compactor monster. There is someone who has a grudge against Wedge for how good he is, that didn't get to fly because freaking Luke Skywalker farm boy got his X-wing, right? It is so good. I cannot recommend enough. Get the audiobook because it's read by like a dozen different people if you want to. And the last chapter in it is just so giddily, beautifully, wonderfully perfect Star Wars. I cannot recommend enough. But you talking about Admiral Piet and Wedge, they both have stories in there. So
nice. I'll have to check that out.
Can't
There is
recommend it.
there is a better book than From a Certain Point of View. It's From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back.
Is there?
That just came out.
Oh
came
my
out.
god, I didn't know that
wow.
just came out. Hell
It's-
yes.
It's better than The New Hope. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah, thank you. I've been waiting for them to release that. Thank you. You've just made my Christmas. I know what's going on my Christmas. If I can real quick, I grew up. Obi-Wan Kenobi was my guy, especially when the prequels came out. Like I can't wait to see Ewan McGregor play him again.
He was awesome. He was amazing.
The Clone Wars TV series, just his whole subplot with Satine, which is a great meta reference to freaking Ewan McGregor being in love with Satine from Moulin Rouge. Like I love Obi-Wan's entire story, and he was always like my favorite character. However, Ahsoka Tano has climbed the charts from being the annoying ass tween from the Warner Brothers Presents Clone Wars movie that was released to theaters, where I was like, what is this garbage, to making me literally cry at the end of Series 7 of the Clone Wars. I'm like, and to see her in live action form, I was like,
Oh, it made me feel good. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah,
So
I gotta binge this Clone Wars again. I watched season 6, and then there was so delay before season 7, and I just didn't watch it. Now I'm like, I gotta watch it from the beginning again, just so that I could.
That's what I did when I watched season 7, because there's so much that like they pick up from like the past seasons, and there was too much of a gap for me. I was like, oh, man,
they had released the animatics. Someone had released the animatics of the Bad Batch episodes from season 7. So I watched them on YouTube, and they're very much like very, very rough animatics. I had seen it already because they had recorded all the audio already.
Okay.
Hayden back as Vader and Kenobi. Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the press release that Disney put out said that the Hayden would be back as Vader, not Anakin.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
wonder if he's just gonna be in a
I
costume.
suspect he'll be like pulling his helmet off a lot. Like he's going to be doing.
He'll be doing a Ren. He'll be doing a Ren, like what
Yeah.
Ren did with his helmet.
Yeah,
at first.
that's what I thought too. They do the force connection. Maybe Snoke is putting them together too. Snoke will have a cameo. And another thing full up with all these Disney shows that were announced, we got a solo spinoff. I'm assuming it's going to be Donald Glover as Lando. We don't know anything about it. We've got a Cassian Andor show. We don't have any shows from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, no,
That's true.
It's all within the the bookends.
Yeah,
They put out the Lego holiday special. They had some
That
characters.
was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah.
They had some of those characters in there. So
Yeah, so Rachel just commented that a great part of the shows and movies, plus the books and the comics and the games, is there's not a chance for boredom. And for the most part, she is correct. Someone had mentioned the droids getting a show earlier, and the droids episodes of the Clone Wars are very cute, but they're not like super engaging. This is what I think people forget about the old school EU, because there's still people with chips on their shoulders. It's like, they got rid of the old EU and I hate it. It's like the old EU was not great.
No, it was very, very convoluted.
Great. Timothy Zahn's dark that shows that the Shadows of the Empire. There's some great old EU, but for the most part, it was not good.
and all the stuff that was good is being brought into the Mandalorian.
Yes, exactly. And yes, the Rogue Squadron movie is going to be phenomenal. Like,
I agree. Patty Jenkins is going to crush this thing. It's going to be fantastic.
What's everyone most looking forward to, since we've been getting some questions about like Vader coming back, Rogue Squadron movie? I'm curious to like around the room what everyone's like most looking forward to for Star. Like Vixie, I know you're looking forward to someone sending you MP4s for the entire Mandalorian series that you're going to watch. But what are you looking forward to regardless of that?
Vixie, you should probably just like cancel everything until those MP4s have been watched.
But what are you looking most forward to for the future Star Wars?
I'm looking forward to the most. All of it, really. I just like, just bring it all of it.
That's a very valid answer.
I'm actually with her. I know it's the easy question, but just the fact that here I am 43 years since I first saw it, we're still talking Star Wars. We're still getting new Star Wars shows and new Star Wars movies, when after Jedi, it was over, you thought that was it. It was only going to live in books and maybe comics and a cheesy TV show occasionally. All right. But because back then sequels and huge franchises were still an early concept in the 80s. So the fact that we're here now talking about like half a dozen new shows and at least 2 new movies that are Star Wars, and my kids have gotten to see a whole like 6 films in the theater, you know, because they re-released some of them. I'm like, this is amazing. So I'm looking forward to all of it and seeing what they're doing for it. I'm leaning towards Lando. I loved, if anybody, you know, has any complaints about Solo, the one consistent thing is everybody loved Glover's Lando.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it for him, I hope they get someone who can play him well, but I think it's going to be a misstep by Disney greatly, since they like playing to the fans a little, which, you know, is good and bad.
They already invested. They'll back the truck up. It's a done deal.
I think of like House and Mark, you guys getting to see it in theaters in its original form. Like, you guys have been with it the longest. Sitting there and knowing just the fandom of Star Wars and the history of it, knowing like the older generation of fans, like you guys, when they're doing things in Mandalorian, specifically like pulling stuff off on the screen that people have been waiting decades for. I'm sitting there going, the sons of bitches did it. They did it, guys. They did it. And payoffs to like weird little things to like, one of my favorite things about episode 2, and this is super strange, I got a fit of glee when frickin' Boba dropped the
seismic charge. Oh my god!
The sound effect went off. I was like,
that's the best sound in Star Wars. That's unanimously chosen as the best sound in Star Wars by Star Wars fans.
Good.
That's no joke. Yeah, that's no joke. No, I love fan service. Like when we saw Boba Fett, like I've been waiting since 1983 for Boba Fett.
Sons of a bitch, they did.
You know,
we've been waiting, and that aspect ratio change, that whole moment felt so special when we finally got to see him. I was just like, oh, this is good.
And how badass he was in that fight with that.
Finally validated all the Boba Fett.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
years people like Boba Fett's the best. Is he? Is he?
He is. There he is.
I'm not against.
Amazing.
I'm not against fan service. I'm against it when it feels forced, like it's tossed in there.
I don't care
to toss in there.
Give it to me.
For me, I'm like
Rogue One.
Seen that, you know, like Rogue One. Rogue One. You know, Rogue One, I think, is the most guilty of it in that first 10 minutes or so. I mean, that's I don't mind the references and the throwbacks to help paint the universe, but at the same time, I'm like, some of those things, I mean, the history stuff, is great to see in live action, the stuff we've wanted to see. It's like, this is what, because I like Star Trek too, this is what we were hoping Enterprise would present. You created this fantastic history and this legends and everything you referred to, get to see it live action, and Enterprise craps the bed on the first episode by having Klingons in a freaking cornfield in a silo, and everybody's like, huh? You know, so that's what I do love fan service wise, is we're getting to see these ideas and concepts that were hinted at explored more, as long as it's just not a little bit shoehorned in, which Mandalorian hasn't done really too much. I mean, you know, at all, but a couple of the spin-off films just felt a little bit forced, you know, especially Solo with the Kessel Run. Did you have to use the same exact music? Come on. But other than that, but I mean, that's just me, you know.
May I make a prediction for Lando? If do you think we'll see the Battle of Tanab in? Because now he gets promoted to general, and like, how did that happen? Well, someone was told about my maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. Well, it wasn't me, right? Like, is that just what we're gonna get? Like, well, Kessel Run, let's make that Battle of Tanab. There we go. Let's have.
I think that was my very first thought. Was that's an inevitable thing to see in the Lando series.
There's a question from Jim. To probably we'll start with Mark over here. Like, is the Vader finale in Rogue One fan service, or is it epic? When he's
it would have been epic had he not been going against a bunch of extras. I'm sorry. As much as it was great seeing him mow down people, These are the guys that got their asses handed to them by stormtroopers on, at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah, TT4 is getting raided, and the
right, stormtroopers actually hit them in the beginning of, so I guess I would have just liked to see him maybe go against, which at this point, I know they don't exist, but it would have been nice to see him go against maybe a little bit more of a formidable foe, like an Obi-Wan against Jango type of fight, to where you at least got a little bit of pushback, to where he's just taking out extras. And it's great seeing them in action, but at the same time, they're just extras. There's no feeling of him getting hurt at all.
Yeah. Have you seen Rebels? Have you watched the animated series Rebels?
I have not watched Rebels
yet.
No.
Brian can back me up here. There is a Vader fight in Rebels that is everything
incredible.
You're asking for. Everything you're asking for, to the point of like, I've rewatched it multiple times because it's just everything you're asking for.
But that's the only thing. Yeah,
that was debunked.
We're playing is Vader's finale fan service or an epic moment? From my point of view, it was both.
Yeah, that is fair.
That's
Great answer.
Just take the. I'm screaming at the screen like, just throw it. Just throw the thing. Don't let him get it. There's talk of a little girl in Mando and classroom being Rey, but Mando's after.
That sounds like
there was a YouTuber named Star Wars Theory that put that video up for like 10 minutes before he realized the math didn't add up. Like, Rey was not that age, and
he kept the video. He just changed the title to something else.
Oh, this is a bad thought.
There was a shot in that classroom with all the kids.
Where
there was a girl with 3 buns in her head. Yeah. Yep. There was a girl with 3 buns in her hair, and he said, "Oh, that's Rey." No, that's Rey.
So, oh my goodness. Well, what else we got?
Well, I will say, just because I have to say it, I think the season opener of the Mandalorian season 2 is just like one of the best moments in all of Star Wars. Is that episode? Jon Favreau put together something special for us on that one.
Yeah.
It was a masterpiece. And the music, everything about it, it was just like everything hit just right for me.
Yeah, how about the music in The Mandalorian? It's just
it's incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
The composer who won the Oscar for Black Panther, he's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible to have such a new sound added to the Star Wars sound, the score that fits perfectly in. Like it's not, it doesn't feel, because honestly, that's the complaint I have about Solo. Is it and Rogue One?
And Rogue One for sure.
Giacchino doing Rogue One did his best. He did score the thing in 2 weeks, so I'll give him credit there. But it doesn't quite feel like it feels out of place. Whereas the Mando stuff, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I listen to it as I write. It's one of my go-to soundtracks.
Yeah. I felt that the Rogue One soundtrack was like a Star Wars wannabe, like a cheap B movie Star Wars knockoff.
They would cut one note out of like the original soundtrack, and it was just like, that's a different song now. Don't worry about it.
I would love to hear Alexander Desplat you can hear his song in the teaser trailer for what Rogue One's score was going to be, but they replaced him. And Giacchino came in and did it last minute. I would love to know what his overall score was. Mm-hmm. Whether it would be better or worse, I don't know, but that's
probably better.
Oh yeah.
So sequel trilogy. Do you guys think George Lucas would have done it better? How do you think we would be acting right now if George Lucas would have done it his way?
Well, do we know what truly his vision was for it? I know there was
going to be a lot. There was going to be a lot more politics. That's the only thing. No, it can be a lot more politics.
The
just
politics,
like a whole movie on it was just all exposition and like talking about the fall of the empire and how how they were gonna like figure out who was gonna run the new empire.
Vote now. Will Taika Waititi's be good or dramatic or tongue-in-cheek comedy fan service? Taika Waititi is a very nuanced director. I know he's known for his comedy, but all of his films, if you look from What We Do in the Shadows, Hunt for the Wilder People, even Thor Ragnarok, he's very good at presenting Arrested Development characters who are struggling to grow. And if you watch his interviews, you can see he's someone who he is a child at heart who is embracing responsibility, and all his storytelling embraces that. He directed the finale of season 1 of Mando, which has a lot to do with growth of a specific individual in Mando, growing out of some of his mentality. And I think Taika Waititi is a masterful comedian, but he's also a masterclass in nuanced storytelling.
Yeah.
If you watch Jojo Rabbit, I have no worries about his Star Wars film at all.
I'm sorry I didn't mention JoJo. 100%.
Because he worked comedy in there, and then he just hits you in the freaking gut.
Just rips your heart out at one moment. All in the moment when he rips your heart out in that movie.
I'm goosebumps right now. Like, goddamn. Yeah.
Well, remember that Miller and Lord were fired from Solo because they were leaning too heavily on comedy. So I don't know how much they're going to want comedy in the Star Wars film.
I don't necessarily think it was that they were leaning too heavily into comedy based on all the hearsay that's out there. It had a lot to do with not adhering to the script, right? Like Kathleen Kennedy, who I know
that's right. I heard that too. Yeah.
The enemy to some is she controls things. She puts people in position to execute the plan, right? And when the plan is being looked at as more of a guideline, there's complaints to be had there. And Lawrence Kasdan, who's been with the franchise for decades, being on set and watching 2 lines of the scene he wrote being said along with 50 lines that they're just riffing, it's going to cause some tension. Go ahead.
That it's more that comedy and drama needs to be like woven together. You can't just have like one note of one or one note of the other, because that's like flat and boring. You got to like feed off each other, and like you were saying about Jojo Rabbit, was like it's really, really funny and then drama.
Yeah.
So like I think you should try to aim to have a bit of a mix of both. And one of the things that was like fantastic about what is now known as New Hope is that it was a movie that made you laugh, cry, cheer, all of it. Like you felt the full spectrum of emotions, not just one.
Yeah. You kind of cut out there for a second, so I hope I'm not repeating what you just said, but you look at Empire. Empire has some of the funniest moments in the original trilogy. There's lots of cute moments in Return of the Jedi, no doubt there. But a lot of the humor comes out of the reality of the situation Han is in, Lando is in. So it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Like that's great. And it's contextual. And I think Lord and Miller they probably would have gave us a pretty spectacular Solo, because they have a track record of, hey, here's something that should not possibly work at all. Oh, you got the Lego movie. Here's Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Here's 21 Jump Street. All these things that shouldn't work that they proved can work. There was probably quite a bit of Solo that would have been awesome.
And you get Lucas pulling the wrong things from Empire about Han Solo into Jedi, because Solo's had humor, but he was still Solo, even though he had some of the most funniest parts. He was still, for the most part, Solo from the first film. By Jedi, he has taken over the mantle from C-3PO and R2-D2 to being comic relief, to where he's the bumbling smuggler for the most part. I mean, he still does a few things, but in Jedi, if you look at the way he is versus he was in Empire, New Hope, Empire especially, Lucas grabbed the wrong things for Han Solo for Jedi.
Excellent points from Vixie and myself. Do we think JJ balanced humor and drama adequately in Force Awakens? Being a consumer of cinema myself, I can see JJ Abrams' style in everything he does, and he has a very style. Like it's go 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 go. Everything is go 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 go. He doesn't have time to stop and breathe.
I think that he erred on the side of drama. Like I think that he could have gone a little more comedy, but he like played it safe, like by going a bit more drama. But I thought there was a bit of both, and there was like some balance in there. So
I thought
I laughed quite a bit during the Force
there's a
Awakens.
huge laugh from
If you want to
BB,
talk about, if you
BB-8
want to
getting
talk,
the thumbs up.
Oh
was,
yeah, the lighter.
biggest
Yeah.
laugh.
yeah, if you want to talk about a Star Wars film that did not mix comedy well, was
I think
The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, no.
Ugh, we,
some of the guys were making fun of him quite a bit after Star Trek, so he like reeled it in a little bit.
I think we all know. I'm gonna pick the moment we all went, all right, what the hell am I watching here? In Last Jedi, and it's when Luke drinks the milk and looks at the camera.
Oh yeah, that was.
That's one of them. Yeah,
I think that's the moment.
Or the second he threw the lightsaber over his shoulder, I was like, oh, it's going to be that kind of movie. Okay.
I knew right from the moment that Poe was spitting out your mama jokes. It
Ugh.
was-
Oh yeah, that is in the beginning there.
Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
weird because Knives Out is hilarious. Knives Out had me
Yeah.
Did a
rolling.
good job with that movie.
Yeah.
I think I really like Ryan Johnson, the director. I just don't know if I like him so much as a writer. I think he just is like constantly trying to like write stuff that you've seen and then like write it
With the twist.
with a twist. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is you've seen this a million times, but here's the twist. You know, it's
Going
like,
to-
okay,
I got
Better
so sick of the phrase "subvert expectations." I got
yeah,
so sick of
subvert
that.
expectations. There it is.
I think everybody jumped at that right now. Larry was going to say it. I'm like, listen.
I think he's better in his own sandbox than he is
Right.
when playing with someone else's toys.
That's
Mhm.
why I loved Knives Out, and I think he needs to do more of that. Don't
Oh, he
give him
is.
someone else's franchise.
Mhm.
He,
No,
I could watch more of Daniel Craig as that, as the the KFC,
Yeah.
KFC
Colonel.
Perot, if you want, that character and that world that he played in. He's very more comfortable in it than sticking him with a franchise, which, there's a number of directors like that. I think if you're going to put them in it, have them do all three. If you're going to plan a trilogy, have them do all three and let the director at least stay consistent, because yes, it worked with the original trilogy by getting a different director for Empire, but we're talking Lucas's directing. But for the most part, if they're going to write it, they need to have the same director throughout.
It's incredible to me that with the success of the MCU, which has created the perfect formula for everyone to fail at, with the renaissance of television we've gotten through the aughts into today, with stuff from Sopranos to Breaking Bad, like, it is shocking to me with all those things in place that they didn't sit down and plan this out. That they seriously didn't sit down and go, here's the trilogy. Like, it is amazing to me that business choice, especially from very competent people, right? Kathleen Kennedy has been producing.
I think she just
Spielberg.
had so much faith in Ryan Johnson.
It's such a strange gamble. And
but here's the thing about Kathleen Kennedy. She wasn't a creative on those films. She was on the financial side of those films. So this is the first time she's been on the creative side of films. So
yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and hate on her because she's given us more good than the fallacies we've seen. And in
Her
general,
work with Spielberg alone is just like,
I mean, Back to the
puts her in
Future,
a lead class. Yeah.
we're in good hands with her, and it was just a very strange choice. Whether it was her decision or someone even above her who made the call to be like, let's take this gamble here. I don't think we'll see something like that again. I think the gamble taken on Ryan Johnson set a precedent for all the Star Wars we're going to get from now on. And I think the success of Mandalorian has proven, hey, someone can sign the checks, but if we need a creative director on all of this, it's Filoni and Favreau, because they are making the right choices.
I think that's how they'll vet directors too, is they'll let them direct like a episode of a show, and then like, oh, that episode was incredible, really hard material, they did a great job, maybe we can give them a movie or whatever. It looks like that's what they're doing, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely, because you can see people who have dabbled into the episodic stuff getting like bumped
like
up.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, exactly. But like
Deborah Chow's got the whole Obi-Wan thing, right?
Yeah, and she's coming up.
She's amazing.
Deborah Chow, right? Yeah.
Rick Fumikawa.
Yeah, God, he's amazing.
It
Last episode was spicy.
Yep.
Well, and with things going streaming now, studios should feel safer with planning out a whole thing rather than shooting by the seat of their pants, because binging is a thing now. We have a whole group of kids who have grown up to be 20 somethings to become the main consumers, who do binging now. So they don't want to wait necessarily and that's why I'm very happy to see the 23, 24 episode series slowly die for the most part, because Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, the best writing and done that they did was the miniseries that was a contained 6 episodes, 12 episode, give me a 12 episode series a year, kind of like BBC does, and make it so that each one, kind of like Mandalorian is, each one adds to the plot. You can still have an own story, but no filler, ship in a bottle episodes, just do the whole arc. You can do all 12 episodes. People are going to watch it from start to finish on streaming now. So I hope that they take a cue from that and not just, we'll do this one movie, and then if it becomes a franchise, which I honestly think they kind of did with Fantastic Beasts.
That's a different conversation. Don't put quarter me on that one.
But you can see it with some series. I mean, I've always made the argument with Heroes, the TV show. First season of Heroes.
You're killing me over here.
The first season of Heroes was great.
I'll talk about
but
all
you
of this.
could tell they didn't plan on going further than first season.
It's 12 and a half perfect episodes.
Yeah.
So it's surprising that they didn't. It's surprising they didn't do that with this trilogy of movies, because they know the audience is there. They know the fan base is there. We're going to consume, just like horror fans. No matter how dumb it's going to be, we're going to be butts in the seat that first weekend, which is what they planned for. And that's what Star Wars is. All the hate people have, you still paid your ticket.
Yeah. That's what I say. Anyone ever comments on a YouTube video, I'm like, thanks for the view.
The algorithm loves it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're only helping me out, even the negative comments. Honestly, it comes back to the limitations. If you go back to the very original Star Wars, the success of that came from the limitations. It came from the problem solving. And though they have endless supplies of money now at Disney, a lot of the good is coming out of group think problem solving.
Yep.
How do we do ABC, and who do we choose to execute it? Yeah.
Well, look at the way they shoot Mando now, for crying out loud.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No,
They're reinventing how films are going to be done.
Yeah, exactly. What a brilliant way the technology's there now. You don't need to bother with the compositing, making sure you got the great green.
It's right there.
No,
it's
right there.
That's how I want to make all my movies now.
I've got a couple of friends that work on that show, and one of them is a background extra. He was like a stormtrooper in the first season. He was a villager in season 2, and he said that it's incredible. It's unlike anything.
Vixie, is that sort of film school you're in? Are you going to be able to work on cool stuff like this?
I do hope so.
Oh, okay, good.
That'd be awesome.
If there's any out there.
Yeah. Well, if may I ask, since brought up, what's your area you're looking at? Cinematography, directing, writing, producing? Like, where are you going?
I've had a pretty well-rounded experience in learning. I've done everything from runner to directing. I've recently did lighting. I was gaffer on a film that has recently won an award for best short film, and my friend Bia was the director, and we both got our awards. We got through victory, our chains are broken on our awards, which is
Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Because the film is called Chain to Traditions.
Chain to Traditions. Okay, cool. Congrats on that. And so maybe there's a future where we are sitting in the presence, virtually as it might be, with someone who may one day work in the Star Wars world galaxy.
There you go.
And you'll invite us on to be stormtroopers. We all agree. She's agreed to it. Everyone, we're all going to be stormtroopers.
I'll put this out in the universe. I plan on directing like an R-rated Star Wars film. Hopefully, hopefully the first.
Yeah. Are you? So you're a fellow filmmaker as well. What is your area?
I'm a writer director.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we should chat. Because I'm a writer director as well.
Yeah. Larry's a filmmaker too. Larry's a writer.
Oh, great.
There you go. I just finished the feature film, so if you guys want to read it, let me know.
Hey,
right. First draft, bomber draft.
Mark down there next to you, he criticizes your films.
Nice. There you go.
I've made a couple of short films, but yeah, mostly I review other films. Yes, so now I feel so out of place now with this wonderful group of people now.
Filmmakers, yeah.
No, I've made a couple short films, and I was on set of a few indie films, and know a lot of indie filmmakers over the years because that's the films I focus on. So this is all awesome. If you guys ever are looking for reviews, send them my way. You can see my channel, and I cover a lot of indie stuff. I cover a lot of indie stuff, and I do a lot of short films now more than actually feature films.
Nice.
I actually review them.
Yeah, I will definitely take you up on that.
I'll send you some things. You know.
Yeah, Pixie, send them, get a review going. It's nothing but good press over here. Larry, get him some films. We got come on, get the inside track here. Although if you review them negatively, be fair.
I have a reputation of being I've been told I've been kind, but I usually find positives in just about everything I watch, except for the vacation film. That movie,
Ed Helms one?
Yes.
You are not wrong. You are correct. You are fine.
That's the one movie to where I just went, screw this. That was my whole review. I just gave it like this, and that was the review. That was it, because I'm like, no. But the rest of the films I watch, I tend to try to give a look for the positive in, especially indie stuff. I think
I'd like to know your review of Tusk.
Tusk?
We're getting into some dark territory here.
That's dark territory, but it's inspired by Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars, I saw it as 2.5 years old. I grew up with it. It showed me the magic of film. I mean, we talk about all these films in the 80s, and to sound cliche, it was a bit of a second golden age of cinema in the 80s, in that you had people, indie filmmakers, basically coming up with inventive ways, and they ended up making these big films that just took off. I mean, Jaws, that came out when I was born. Let's look at Jaws. I mean,
the original blockbuster right there.
The original blockbuster, very little budget. And and you look at what they did with it there. You look at the original Star Wars. You even look at Indiana Jones and some of these others later on in the 80s, what people were able to do with what little they have.
Yeah.
That was what made it magic, because you're like, holy crap, they can do that. But it also told people, well, I could do that too.
Someone had commented just a moment ago about the original Star Wars reinvented visual effects. The Mandalorian is reinventing stagecraft. I would hazard a guess that all of us were inspired to be the people we are creatively by Star Wars. I definitely we all want to be the roguish, charming Han Solo, but we're probably all the nerdy Luke Skywalker, right? Like, we all want the Princess Leia to tell us like it is. And I think so much of Star Wars informed my entire existence. That, Looney Tunes and Animaniacs, and watching Three Stooges with my grandpa. There's certain things that I can look at and go, I'm this way because of this. And Star Wars, as from my filmmaking, from dreaming of being an independent filmmaker and making stuff flying by the seat of my pants with limitations, comes from my love of Star Wars. And I'm going to help Brian make an R-rated Star Wars. He pitched it to me, and I'm on board. I'm all in.
Like Sith based,
Well, there you go.
A Sith story.
Vixie's in. Vixie's in.
Hey,
are you in?
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. How old and what were your first Star Wars? Oh, so that goes to how we even started the whole show, was how we started.
Yep. New Hope, I was 5 years old.
4 years old, watching in my living room, being scared of skeletons on fire.
2.5 years old. New Hope in the theater. Although Jaws is why I was born, but that's another story.
Oh my gosh, that was a drive-in type thing.
No, that's conception. No, born.
Okay.
The chum scene. My mom, real quick. My mom was in line. She was with my dad and my uncle, and that they actually stood in line around the corner for 2 hours to go see it. She watched the film. Everybody was concerned when there was the jump scenes.
Oh, well. Why you were born. Okay.
Right. So there was the jump scene with the chum. Well, it didn't happen then, but a week later, she's reading the novelization. She got to the part where he's tossing the chum and the shark jumps up. She jumped and her water broke. And there you go. That's why I...
Amazing.
Cinema experience, it would be me in 77. I was 5. I saw it in the theater.
The re-release, the special edition re-release, was the first time I saw it in the big screen.
Yeah, I saw the re-releases on the big screen, but I remember going to see all the prequels at midnight, and it was such a special experience. And then when the sequels came out, I remember going at 7:00 to see it was the first showing, and there were people waiting for the midnight showing, and I was like, yeah, everybody dies when we walked out. It was just but it was the whole magic of that midnight was gone because I could see it before them, even though they were waiting to see it at midnight. Because it was I went on a Thursday or something. It was
Yeah, The Force Awakens was the first movie that they played 24 hours. It was just a 24-hour cycle for 2 weeks. Yep.
I did take my kids to the Force Awakens midnight showing when they were still doing midnight showings at that time when it came out. That was one of the last ones because we got there early. I told them we're going to get there early. We're standing out in the cold for a couple hours. Luckily, there was a Little Caesars Pizza just down the block from the theater. So I told them hold our place. I went and got the Little Caesars Pizza, and we weren't the only ones. We were all wait until midnight to see the movie, and midnight movies they're special. I mean, now, I was kind of disappointed, though old me didn't mind the fact Thursday showings were 7:00.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me was like, no,
missed those midnight openings, those midnight premieres the day before.
Yeah, a necessity of change.
12:01. They used to
12:01. 12:01.
I consider a few movies that I actually really did go to the first opening, the opening night. Yeah.
There's just a different energy about those midnight movies.
See the first one, and I went in my R2D2 dress and everything.
Yeah,
there you go.
I love it.
That's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The midnight experience for Last Jedi. I remember I was in packed theater, back row, and there's 2 moments in the movie where I reacted audibly that I felt like the guy in front of me was using that as permission to he was waiting for other people to react audibly. So the 2 times that I was he was like, yeah. And
solidarity.
I'm with you, man. It's fine. It's cool. We're all here to enjoy this. Everyone else is sitting in silence because they're probably wondering what they're watching, but we can at least acknowledge a couple of cool moments. It was this moment where I was like, oh yeah. And then the guy in front of me was like, woo!
Yeah, I've gone to the sneak previews of every Star Wars film that I can remember, and they're always sold out. There's always lines wrapping around the theater, except for Solo. I went to the first screening of Solo, the premiere, and there were 10 people in the theater. This is just.
I was still pretty pissed off after Last Jedi, so I kind of just didn't.
I think a lot of people were. Yeah, a lot of people were.
Yeah,
got a bad taste in my mouth. The bantha milk gone bad.
It was really that it was Rogue One and then Last Jedi, and I was just kind of eh.
Because I was the writer, I believe the writer-directors does Breaking Bad. Is that right?
Yeah, Ryan Johnson had done the gold, the big award-winning episode of the.
Addicted to Breaking Bad. I was like, this writing is so good, I could inhale it. The writing is the crystal blue. And I was hooked on every single episode. And so I was when I found out okay, he's director and stuff for the movie for Star Wars, I was like, I can't wait to get a hit of that beautiful writing.
The blue crystal.
And I was like, I expected this to be better.
Are you a fan of the webpage called Outer Haven? I would love to network you with them. Someone asked what our the question before this house. What was it? The trailers making you feel. I think we discussed it earlier when the Phantom Menace trailer came out, and just being
people would go and see the movie just for that, and then they'd leave, and then they'd
it's happening. 30 years later, it's gonna happen. And what is this? Who's the guy with the red and black face with double lightsaber? Right.
Yeah, I remember spending 12 hours downloading the QuickTime trailer.
Same. From Napster or something.
The shaky cam VHS, whatever. Cam recording.
Watch all the news, the interviews of all the fans in line before the movie. What are you gonna do if the movie sucks? Oh, it's not gonna suck. It's gonna be awesome.
I'll kill myself.
I remember people going to see movies just because they knew the trailer was in front of it. They didn't even care what the movie was.
There's a few occasions that in cinematic history where it's like, this is how big this movie is going to be. You can tell, like Batman '89 was a good example of that, where people were like, "Oh, this ain't Adam West." Oh boy.
No, but I remember when Batman '89, it was announced that Michael Keaton was Batman. People were upset.
They were not happy about that.
I'm going to write a strongly worded letter about blonde James Bond. This is bullshit. Oh, look at that. You had 89 Batman right there.
It's my huge one there. Yeah. But no, I remember
the only Batman who was universally loved was Christian Bale from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because American Psycho and Equilibrium. Everyone's like, we're
fine.
It's been like fan casted for like 5 years.
Adam West, best Batman.
Did you say Adam West the best Batman?
Yes, he's the
We're
best
friends.
Batman.
We're friends. We're friends. This is great. Yeah.
my what?
So hard, words will appear out of thin air.
my good friend who my wife calls my movie wife, Dawn, Adam West is her big Batman too. That's her Batman. And she's like, yes, that's my Batman, the light knight, if you will.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Well, to bring it back to Star Wars, because we're talking about we had someone had asked like what our favorite movies or characters are. There's a point now where there's so much content. It's easier for me to say, what's your favorite trilogy?
Right.
Like what is you? And more times than not, you're going to find older fans like original. The fans who came up in the 90s into the 2000s are going to be like, I love the prequels. And I have nieces and nephews who are 10 and under, and they love the new trilogy. So
it's generational. Star Wars is generational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but right now it's like
everyone loves the Mandalorian.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, for me, I'm the original trilogy. I mean, I love all the trilogies. I love the prequels. I love the sequels, despite all their blemishes. The Last Jedi, I've got a lot of problems with, but it's still, it's a good film. It's still Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just judge it all based on like what I watch, I guess, and like I just don't watch the new sequels. I don't rewatch them ever, but those prequels and then the original trilogy, you
just keep going back.
Just keep going back to that trough.
Why do you think we do that? What's the appeal of Star Wars to you guys?
Wow.
It's comfortable, really, really comfortable place for me. I think it's a lot of us. We talked about it being part of our like young childhood. I think that's part of it. Like it's nostalgic. It feels like you feel like a kid again when you watch it.
Yeah, it's grilled cheese and tomato soup. It is grandma's cookies. It is a warm blanket that was knitted by your mom. Like there's something special, and it's the magic. It goes back to the magic earlier. I think Brian, you're the one who mentioned that, but it's there is a magic in it to go back to it, to feel like a kid again, to cross your arms when you don't like something, but to still keep watching and not turn it off, to come back to it again and again. There's something so special about the movies we love. There's a great series on Netflix exactly about this, but Star Wars itself,
awesome series.
I would like to point out Movie Bob has a channel on YouTube who does really that good as his series. And he waited a long time to do Star Wars. And when he finally did, he did specifically the 77 Star Wars and discussed why did this movie do what it did? And why does it keep doing what it does? It's just magic. Like that's all it can be. That's it. It's magic. That is what it is, and what it does to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it was like this cultural impact that it had back in '77. It still changed the world. Yeah, and it still does. I think it's everything. It's the music, especially. I can't imagine Star Wars without that score.
Yeah,
Lucas wanted like Beethoven and Bach, and he wanted classical music in there. So,
well, John Williams drew from. I'm not going to. He did. Yeah, he drew from a very classic pieces of orchestration and symphonies. A question below from Jim Queen here about what makes the original trilogy so good, and it's what we're just saying here. It's the music, it's the characters, it's everything we've been talking about for the past 2 hours here. And I think from a very lizard brain, whether we realize it or not, it is a story we all know, whether we've seen it or not. It follows the monomyth. If you know Joseph Campbell, we know this story, and to have it told to us in such a fun, unique, interesting way that you
And
see.
it's like believable too. It's like it's so
Yeah.
far away from all of our like world, but it's still so believable.
Yeah,
Like
once upon a time, this happened, and we love it. And I think that, especially the original trilogy, because everything spawned from that, not just Star Wars itself, but our fandom, our interest in other things, looking at what franchises have done ever since is, the second one's Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy. Like, it's just a nomenclature of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like it's mix. It's a really good mix of everything. It's like a whole symphony of notes. It's like all these little elements that together complement each other and that lead into each other that actually makes it the amazing thing that it is. It's not, you can't just pick on like just one thing. It's the fact that it all works together.
And without trying, there is something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I know if you look at Jedi, it's like, let's add teddy bears for marketing purposes. Okay, we can go there. And if you look at Phantom Menace being a checklist of demographics, sure. But if you look at that original trilogy, without being so purposeful in it, there is something for everyone in there. That someone can love Wedge Antilles and Admiral Piet, like that could be their favorite character. That's that R2D2 is someone's favorite character. That Boba Fett has stood the test of time as one of the most overrated characters ever. Finally validated. It's like, that's incredible. That is incredible. It's magic.
Not overrated anymore.
Not overrated anymore.
It's the scope. I think Star Wars showed you the scope of what you can do in a film, in a cinema experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because look at your sci-fi leading up to that. Even it was more heavy sci-fi. Even Star Trek, the motion picture, Roddenberry was trying to do heavy sci-fi. 2001 type of sci-fi, and
Planet
then
of the Apes,
right.
All that old school science fiction. Yeah,
all this old school science fiction, which, don't get me wrong, some of those are great, but along comes Lucas, who takes stuff from serials and just works those elements in, stuff from samurai films, and works them into this thing that, everyone here said it great, is that there's a little something for everyone in it. And there is just some heart and charm that kind of falls out with the marketing because they started putting things in for Jedi. Yeah. But that the original trilogy still is in a time when people weren't planning sequels. They weren't planning franchises. So I think there's a little bit more honesty in some of these earlier trilogies. The earlier trilogy, not just Star Wars, but like Back to the Future and Indiana Jones. There's a little bit more honesty to them because they aren't sure if this is going to go to the next film. They aren't exactly, will this make enough money for me to make my next one, versus now where they plan an automatic trilogy, which isn't bad. I'm just saying, no, that's what I think makes those original films, especially the original trilogy for Star Wars, just that extra special, is that it's a little more genuine. They're just telling a story that happened to make a shit ton of money.
And it was made with love. It was made with that spirit, that like force, just like they had that like the attitude of this dream that just wouldn't die. And like that George Lucas was just like, he had this dream and he needed to make this dream. And even though they had so many setbacks, like if you watch the behind the scenes and stuff, all these things went wrong and and just this determination, and like he just kept pushing because it's like, I have to make this. This is something that is my dream that has to come true.
Mm-hmm. So, I just gotta get it out of my head. It's just in my head. Now it's in my bank account, so I'm gonna keep doing this. Yeah, sure. I prove.
Yeah, like Ray said, OG or organic.
Yeah. So, House, you want to take us on home here? You want to keep going here? This is.
Well, we've been going for 2.5 hours now. Well, thanks everybody for coming on. It's probably super late for you guys. It's 10:30 for me, but Vixie, you're like on the other side of the world, so it's tomorrow.
I'm like,
I'm Los Angeles. It's only 8:30 for me, man. I'm gonna pop in. I'm gonna pop in Empire after this.
California.
Yeah, Vixie, how does Friday look? I'm asking now. So do I need to plan ahead
I've tried that joke before. It never lands.
No, this is
well.
great. It's special to as much as Star Wars is special. It's special to have conversations like these where it's just a joy fest. Like no one came in here to like eviscerate anything or air grievances. And though we did, thank you, Rachel, for commenting and watching and listening. No one came on here to like grind an axe. Like I think we all came in here with, despite our criticisms, I think in general it is great to have conversations with people who just genuinely appreciate, as we've been using the word, the magic of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned it, that I always, something I believe is, each trilogy is a different generation, and to try to gatekeep one trilogy over another for a group of fans is doing disservice to the exact thing that you love. You're missing the exact point.
You're killing it.
You're missing the exact point of what Star Wars actually is. It's okay for you to like the prequels more than I do. It doesn't mean that you're wrong or I'm right. You found something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love film. You can sit so many different people down into a theater. You all watch the film and it's the same exact thing, but you'll get something different from it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. Yep. Fairy tale sci-fi love is what Star Wars is. It's that's fantasy that just sparks your imagination. And that's why I love it. Is Jed? It just takes you places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Far away.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was important to have people on that were fans. You know, the Fandom Menace is what they're called. They're the ones that are boycotting Star Wars, Disney. They want to fire Kathleen Kennedy. They're the vocal ones.
It's silly.
They need to settle down.
It's the real fans that need to speak up and tell people why they love Star Wars. So I thought this was
How many kids right now are dressing up as little Rey, little Mando, little Finn?
What I have been to Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars land in Disneyland multiple times. I will go there and spend like half my day just walking around there. And one of my favorite things is to see the little kids in costumes coming in and just like to re-experience that excitement and innocence of the fandom is just, it's amazing. Like I love it. You're right.
I can't wait till they open it back up. So I'm gonna come out there.
Come on. Let's all make a day of it when the world opens back up. Hell yeah! I was going to go the day they closed the doors because they just released the Resistance. The new ride had just opened.
Yeah.
I was like, this is gonna happen.
How many people have gone on it yet? Anybody here?
I haven't been on it. No,
I did. I did. It is the best ride at Disneyland, bar none.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Larry, are you in LA?
I did actually. In Hollywood, I did. I went to the Disneyland in California, and I went to the ride, and I had to go on it several times because they changed the ending each time.
The Smuggler's Run. Yeah. We get that.
The Star Wars ride.
Yeah, it's so good.
Can't wait to go.
All right,
one day.
I guess we'll wrap it up here. Once again, thanks guys for coming on.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for putting this together.
Thanks.
Tune in tomorrow. We're gonna have Dave
Thanks,
Canfield
everybody.
on tomorrow. It's our last show for the year, so hopefully we'll see